Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Okay. So you're all here to meditate. Good. So what were you doing until you got here then? Not meditating. So that's why you're here to meditate now. So you want me to ask you to meditate before you start meditating then? I must tell you to meditate before you start meditating. Is that why you're here? So I can tell you to meditate and then you start meditating? I rather use the word contemplation rather than meditation. Because meditation has a lot of baggage that comes with it. A lot of preconceived notions of what meditation entails. But before we get into any of that, is it me or is it a bit warm in here? Right, let's fix that first. Right. So this is what we are about, right? If something's not right, then fix it. If something's not right, fix it. Contemplation of the Dhamma is exactly to do that. If something's not right, then fix it. You're all very good at fixing things which aren't right. Most of you will be in employment, or will have been in some form of employment. If you have left lay life now, then you will have been in some form of employment. Whatever line of work you will have been in, did that not involve some kind of fixing something? Something that was broken needed fixing. What does a doctor do? Fix what? The bodies. And human, minds, brains, I suppose. So doctors fix humans. Vets, they fix animals. Plumbers, they fix broken pipes. Engineers, they fix a lot of things. Architects, they help piece together people's dreams. Tour operators, they fix you up a holiday. Chefs, they fix a meal. Mothers, fix their children. Fathers, they fix the mothers. Right? So everything's about fixing something. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with fixing, except for the fact that we're always about fixing something that will eventually break again. I mean, that's good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in a job for very long. Any doctor who is in a good sense of mind will fix a patient and say, come back soon. Thank you, please return. Right? See you soon. So we fix things and hope that they'll break again so that we can fix them again. This is how the world works. Things have to break and there'll have to be people who are there to fix them back again, put them back up again. Like when Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall, then what happened? What happened, Buddha? What happened to Humpty Dumpty? He had a what? A great fall. Then what happened? What did the king do? He sent his horses and he sent his men to do what? To put Humpty Dumpty together again. But could they? No. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. So it seems that there are things in this world which cannot be fixed once broken. Well, certainly not by using things that are available or people that are available within the reach of normal means. Like, so there are things that even a king can't fix. Kings can't fix certain things. So the king couldn't fix Humpty. You are all involved in fixing things. And when you fix something, it's going to break again. And then you do something to fix it again. Then it's going to break again. And then fix it again. And then it breaks again. And you fix again. You'll probably have a superhero. Most of you. Children particularly, right? Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, this man, that man. What are all these men about? They fix. They fix. Captain America, what does he do? He fixes the world. When it all starts toppling over, Captain America, and who else? Thor, Iron Man, they come to fix the world again. These are the heroes. So the villains, they break the world, and the heroes, they come back and fix the world. Well, is it not good that the villains break the world? Otherwise, superheroes wouldn't be superheroes. They only have superhero status because there are villains who break the world up into small pieces. And then the superheroes, they come and fix the world, and that's what makes them superheroes. That's why they are so popular. So right from superheroes all the way down to you guys, right? We are all involved in fixing things that break. And like I said, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with it, except for the fact that no matter how much effort and how much money and contribution you put towards fixing something, we're always fixing something that will eventually break. But there is also a way to fix things. Fix something in a way that doesn't break again. I think if there's someone who can show us the way to fix something so it doesn't break again, now that's a real hero. If you can fix something so that it doesn't break again, I think that's a real hero. Do you all have a hero in your life? You ought to. You should all have a hero in your life. Someone who's a role model. People have broken hearts. And then you need someone to fix it. Have you fixed broken hearts? Have you ever had a broken heart? No? It'll be really difficult, or it'll be a real struggle to find someone who's never had a broken heart. Almost everyone's had a broken heart. And then what do you do when you have a broken heart? You have to find someone to fix it. Did you find someone to fix it? When it broke last time round? What if we could fix it so it doesn't break again? Wouldn't that be something? Okay, it's good. There are people in our lives who come and help us fix our hearts when they break. But what if we could fix it once and for all so it doesn't break again? That's something worth exploring, isn't it? Meditation is about fixing a broken heart so it doesn't break again. That is what meditation should be used for. This is why I say we should preferably call it contemplation. There's a process, there's a science, there's a method to fix a broken heart so it doesn't break again. Have you heard the King of Hearts? Have you ever played cards? There's a King of Hearts, right? Yeah, my hero is the King of Hearts. Because he taught me how to fix my heart so it doesn't break again. That's why I call him what? The King of Hearts. Can you see him? Yes. He's my King of Hearts. He can do for me what he did, or he can do for you what he did for me. Because he taught us the way to fix yourself so it doesn't break again. Never to be broken again. Who are we talking about? Of course. Do you even need to ask? No. So we're talking about the Supreme Buddha. He is my King of Hearts. He has taught me how to fix myself so I don't break again. So what I have been doing ever since is trying to fix myself so I don't break again. To enable us to do that, he taught us the method to do that. Because it's not like you have a magic wand and you can just go abracadabra. It's not magic. This is a science. This is the science of fixing so it doesn't break again. This is a philosophy. There's a method involved. There's logic involved. There's reasoning involved here. And thankfully, therefore, anyone can do it. You don't need to be a wizard for this. There's no hokery-pokery, nothing like that. There are no magic potions. You don't need to go to Hogwarts for this. Any 6-year-old, 7-year-old with a brain who can understand any of this is able to do this. You don't need a magic hat. You don't need any of that. You don't need to go speak to Dumbledore. You can do this all by yourself. All you need is the King of Hearts and the method that he taught us to fix ourselves so we don't break again. And in order to do this, he gave us 3 little words. These are the words we spoke about last week. So if you were here, I said this week, we're going to be contemplating on the application of the 3 words that we discussed last week. Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. I talked to you last week about how we need to see these words in a different light to perhaps the one that you have been seeing them in up until this point. Anicca is the most positive word there is out there. It's very positive, it's not negative. The word anicca should not start draining you of all the energy that you have inside of you. Rather, it must supercharge you. When you hear the word anicca, that should put you on cloud 9. I always forget that one. Is it 7 or 9? Cloud 9, I think. 7th heaven, cloud 9. That's the one. Thank you. Puts you on cloud 9. Puts you on top of the world. Makes you go elated. Anicca. And also, if you remember last week, I started to talk to you about setting yourself some goals on your path to Nibbana. Because we said Nibbana is not a smart goal. Do you remember this from last week? Nibbana is not a smart goal. A goal has to be smart. Right? Whether that's in making yourself successful in a mundane existence, or whether you're aiming for a supra-mundane existence, rather, in other words, Nibbana, all goals have to be smart. So you must know very clearly what you're about to do. They have to be measurable, so you know how much progress you're making. They have to be achievable, so someone like you can be or should be able to do it. They have to be relevant to your life's purpose. What is your life's purpose, madam? To be happy? Is it not? To be happy. Isn't that what we've been doing all our lives? Trying to do things that we thought were going to make us happy. So being happy is our life's purpose. So whatever goal you set for yourself, it has to be relevant to that purpose. So if your purpose on this life is to be happy, then I shall ask you, do not set yourself any goals that is not going to help you be happy. If you have a list of goals you're working on, go and check each one of them off. Does that help make me be happy one day? Might not make you be happy today, but it has to make you be happy one day. They have to be relevant, and then finally they have to be timely. So you have to be able to say, I'm going to achieve this in the next X days, weeks, months, years, and so on. So this is why I said start making yourself some smart goals. And I gave some ideas. I proposed to you some suggestions. Did you put some of your own together? I asked you to do that. I was hoping there would be a sheet of paper here with your ideas of smart goals for Nibbana. There's no sheet here, but hopefully there's one in your mind. Do you remember some of the things we suggested last time? Because this is what we're going to be doing today. Remember, the Buddha's teaching is nothing if it's not practical. There's no better place to apply the Buddha's teaching than in practical life. This is not about how do we send a rocket to the moon. This is about how do you solve life's problems. Why do you go to a family counselor? Why does one go to a family counselor? To learn how to make chicken curry? Now, why do you go to a family counselor? To help sort out problems that you might have in the family. Right? That's why you go to a family counselor. Why do you go to a doctor, a physician? To help solve a problem with your body, with your physique. Likewise, you go to the Buddha to help solve problems in your life. Not in next door neighbor's life, in my life. Not in imaginary problems, in real life problems. This is what the Buddha's teaching is for. So therefore, this is why I say this is so practical. This is why I gave you some examples last time. To show you that how I apply the Buddha's teaching. When I sit down for meditation, this is how I do it. I sit down for meditation and I ask myself, what are some of the challenges that I have in my life that keep me from attaining happiness? And then I take the Buddha's teaching and I apply that into that problem. And I come back with an answer. I just keep doing that. Do you remember some of the things we talked about last time? Some of the challenges that people have? Can you remember one or two of them? Some people like their tea with sugar. Others like it without sugar. Which one's the problematic one? Which one's okay, which one's not okay? Liking it with sugar or liking it without sugar? Both? Both? No, it can't be both. Surely it's the one without sugar that's the problem. I mean, a tea without sugar, how can anyone have tea without sugar? Surely that's the problem, right? No? Okay, you can tell me to stop. When I have hit the problem, tell me to stop. Okay, I'll tell you the problem. When I hit the problem, you tell me to stop. I like... Whoa. What? I haven't even completed the sentence. Let's try that again. I like... I haven't even completed the sentence. Why won't you let me complete the sentence? Tell me when I should stop saying the sentence because I've hit the problem, right? I haven't got to come on my cup of tea yet. Wait. I like... You guys are so rude. You came to listen to my sermon and I can't even talk, you want me to stop. Right, fine, I'll stop then. Why do you keep stopping me at the word like? Huh? Oh, is that the problem? Not the fact that I like my tea with sugar. Like is the problem, not tea with sugar. Ah, okay. Okay, I'm going to change it then. You don't like the word like, right? Okay. I'm going to tell you the problem. Well, I'm going to tell you the problem that the way I see it. You tell me the problem the way you see it. Okay? Okay. You're too good at this. This is the problem. I'm trying to find a way to catch you out. But you're so good at this now. I'm trying to trick you. See, this is good. I can't trick you now. You're on the ball. You're on the ball. This is what's important. You're good at this now. It's good. But I'll try. Okay. Yesterday, one of the monks that I went to meet, they spoke to me in a way that hurt my feelings. I met a monk yesterday, and he said something that hurt my feelings. What's the problem? So I like people to talk nicely to me, but people speak to me in words that hurt my feelings. So the problem is which one? My liking for people to talk to me nicely. Yeah? Okay. I don't need to preach to you now. Okay, right, let's all meditate then. It's raining. Oh, I like it not to rain. I like the sunshine. My tea has gone cold. I like hot tea. Okay. I went to the cafe, and I asked for a latte. They gave me a cappuccino. Who should I send my letter of complaint to? Me? No, you didn't hear me properly. Wait, let me say that again. I went to the cafe and I asked for a latte, and they gave me a cappuccino. Who must I send the letter of complaint to? My wife? Or my own mind? Why? What's the problem? My choice. Why is that? Where's the problem? My liking. I wanted a latte. They gave me a cappuccino. So that's the problem. Good. Very good. Now, do you have problems like that in your life? Always. My daughter has not made her bed today. And what's the problem? No, she's not making the bed. That's the problem, isn't it? So what do? Beat her up. Get her to sleep on the floor. That's what we should do. So she doesn't have to make the bed again. What's the problem? Daughter didn't make her bed today, and when I saw that, I got very angry. What's the problem? I like for her to make her bed. Or in other words, I want her to make the bed. Have you never ordered something from a takeaway and when it got delivered, it was something else? Had you ever ordered something online and when they delivered it, it was something else, and then you had to return it? I know, there are certain things in life that, if you need a washing machine, you need a washing machine, not a dryer. Or if you order a washing machine, you want one, not a cooker. So if they send you a cooker, you can't just tell yourself, oh, it's my problem, I wanted a washing machine. I'll just stick my clothes on the cooker. The same mechanism, open the door, stick it in, turn the knob, right? In 15 minutes, you're not going to find them washed. That's the oven there. It's not the washing machine. So it doesn't work like that. So you need to be sensible about this. But what we are talking about is how do we fix our heart so it doesn't break? We don't like heartbreaks. Who likes a heartbreak? No, we don't like heartbreaks. This is why we should fix our heart so it doesn't break again. This is why I'm talking to you about the method introduced by the King of Hearts. How do we fix your heart so it doesn't break again? So he teaches us to figure out the problem, read the problem correctly. I could give you a book with all of people's problems listed down on there, like the problems that people tell me when they come to the monastery and talk to us. Swamina has, I have this problem, I have that problem, I have this problem, and my wife doesn't talk to me nicely, my children are very rude to me, I find it very difficult to work with my colleagues. These are all problems that people come with. But really, they're not coming with the right problem. So what I then try and do is to help them to find out the right problem. So I'm training you all to become monks. This is the first step. I'm brainwashing you all. I'm teaching you how to become a monk. A monk is someone who dispenses solutions to the mental problem. Firstly to himself or herself, and then secondly to the people that come to them for help. Because I'm here to do, and we are all here about, helping you solve a problem so it doesn't reappear. We don't like relapses. In other words, not that we don't like relapses, but rather it's preferable not to have a relapse. Fix a problem so it doesn't reoccur. So now dig into your own lives and find out problems that you have. Rather than find out, you just need to remind yourself of problems that you have. Once you've found the problem, ask yourself, is this the real problem? Superficially, it looks like this is the problem, but is this the real problem, the underlying problem? And then we apply anicca dukkha anatta to treat it. This is what meditation is. It's nothing magical. Like I said, no magic potions, no magic wands, no magic hats, no magic potions, nothing like that. This is just simple logic and reasoning. But when you build your case, you have to build it so airtight, so foolproof that you could take it to a court and it will stand the test of a judge, a well-experienced judge. So, for example, if I said to you, I like chicken. And if I said to you, I like chicken. Like, for example, like when we have our meditation programs, our weekly meditation programs, on a Tuesday and a Thursday we have a discussion. So our monks sit down with you and we discuss how much have you actually understood the Dhamma. And sometimes we get some really funny responses. It's quite entertaining, I must admit. So sometimes we go and we speak to the upasakas and the upasikas who come. Sometimes the problems that we put forward to them is, upasakam, I like chicken, help me. You'll be surprised the responses we get back from them. They think outside the box, I must give you that though. They're very creative. 10 out of 10 for creativity. So for example, if I said, I like chicken, I'm addicted to it, how do I break the habit? Some of the answers we get back. Swami answer. You're a monk. It's not fitting for a monk to be a non-veg. Become vegetarian. This is what you should do. So this is advice. We go to and speak to them for advice. Become a vegetarian. And then the problem's fine. The problem will be solved. Is that what we are asking for? No, that's not the solution. Because this is not about a lifestyle choice. What is being proposed is become a vegetarian. Then that's a lifestyle choice. I'm not talking about a lifestyle choice. That is not what the King of Hearts said. You need to be able to apply anicca dukkha anatta to this problem. To do that, first you need to identify the real problem. Some people say, well, chicken is very expensive these days. You should go for a cheaper option. No, I'm not talking about that. Because again, if you take it to the court, it doesn't stand. Because what is a counter argument to that? Well, you're saying it's expensive because you don't have enough money. Then work harder, earn more money, and now it's not expensive. Now you can afford it. So that's the solution. But that's not the solution we went in looking for. Some people say, well, Swaminatha, if you eat chicken, then you're indirectly contributing to the death of animals. That's not good. Right? They could go to hell. No, that's not what we're talking about either. And remember, it's pranagata, or killing a being, that is the deed that takes one to the apaya. It's not indirectly contributing to that anyway, but that's another story for another day. But again, this is not what we're talking about. These are all evasive answers without actually treating the root cause. This is why I say, when I tell you the problem, you should be able to tell me to stop. That's it. That's where the problem is. So let's try that one more time. This is about chicken, okay? I like... Exactly. Anyone who is in their sane mind should never be able to say a sentence with the words, I like. If you are able to still say the word like in a sentence, prefixed by the word I, so if you are ever able to say the words I like, then you have a problem. It does not matter what comes after the word like. Because what that means is you have a personal preference. And what's the problem with the personal preference? Well, that's vexatious. Now you have subject yourself, you're open, you have opened yourself, in other words, you have exposed yourself to suffering. Because whether your personal preference materializes or not is simply down to causes and effects. It does not matter what you like, it does not matter what you don't like. When the causes are in their favor, you will get the result. If they're not in its favor, then you shall not get that result. That's all it is. So it's quite simple, really. So now what I want you to do then is, because today we are going to be contemplating on this, right? I want you all to look into your lives, not my life, look into your lives, and pick out 3 things. 3 things which steal your mental happiness. 3 things which challenge your mental happiness. And these are some examples I gave you earlier on. Like it could be something really simple. Like cold cup of tea. Or it could be something quite complicated. Like, I want this person to be president at the election this time. Something that's way out of your control. But again, if you have a preference, then you have a problem. Personal preference is another word for problem. It's just another word for problem. Whatever the case might be, come up with 3 problems that you have in your life. Identify the true cause of the problem, which is wanting, which is liking, and then we need to apply anicca, dukkha and anatta to treat this problem. That's what we're going to be using most of today for. Now take a moment and check for yourselves whether you have 3 problems that you would like to apply this into your lives. Take a moment to see if you can think about the 3 problems that you would want to apply this into. Don't go for something that is too complex to start with. You can leave that for later. So for example, let's say for one of you, it's you're really struggling giving up your, let's say you have a strong desire for cake. It could be, right? For some people, you can give up anything else, just not cake. I am just so addicted to cake. It could be food for some people. For others, it could be fashion. I can give up anything else, Swami Master, I just can't give up my wardrobe. The things I have in my wardrobe, I need all of that. This is what I live for, fashion, to look nice. For some people, it could be just the way you lay out your table, your desk. And there people, have you not seen people who are very fussy about how their desk is laid out? That if your clock is there, and if they find it there, they're going to spot it. It's got to be there. Some people are so fussed about that, very particular. They have meticulous attention to detail about the way they lay out things. Some people are like that, and sometimes they even call OCDs. It can go up to that level, obsessive compulsive disorders. So that's a mental condition, but I think anything is a mental condition. Just the fact that you want it there is a mental condition. That's a disorder. It's a mental disorder. Sometimes the way that people lay out their wardrobes, nice socks, matching pairs have to be together. If ever you find a pair that doesn't match, you get angry. That can happen. Sometimes if you are very clean and tidy, just ask yourself, have these things not happened in your life? So, okay, when you wake up in the morning, you make your bed. But sometimes someone comes and sits on the bed and they don't have the courtesy to fix the bed before they go. You come back and you find your bed messed up. Makes you angry. These are problems that you need to fix. How? By having a word with the guy who comes and makes your bed untidy? No. Why? Because we need to identify the correct problem. Toilet seat? Do you have that problem at home? Whether it's left up or down? Some people have that problem at home. Whether the toilet seat is left up or down. And some other examples I gave you last time. For example, if you should be able to eat anything mixed, you should be able to eat mixed foods, items of food together. Milk and rice should be able to be eaten together. If you can't, then there's a problem that needs to be fixed. Do you still struggle with bitter food? Sweet, okay, yeah, I can manage that. Sour, can manage that. Bitter, yuck, don't like that. There's a problem now. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. I'm assuming that you're all wanting to become arahants one day. Is that a fair assumption? One day? I don't know what day that is, but one day, that is our goal, is it not? This is your destination. So, can you name the arahant who did not like bitter taste? What was his name? The arahant who did not like the taste of bitter. What was his name? Venerable? Venerable? Have you not read the story? Venerable, he did not exist? No, there was no arahant like that. Have you not found yourself walking into the toilet when just after someone's been? It's been flushed, yes, all clean, but you find the smell very repugnant. You find it very difficult to walk into that room, into the bathroom. You go, oh God, I'll come back later. Puta, why don't you use the air freshener after you've been to the toilet? See, don't ask yourselves, do you not have this problem? If you do, this is where you need to apply anicca. See, life's problems. These are practical life problems. This is where you need to apply anicca. Where else are you going to apply anicca? Apply anicca in practical life problems. Sometimes it might be you're traveling in a bus or in a train. Maybe that's where your commute is, on a bus or a train. And especially if it's say after work, 5-6 o'clock, people are all very tired and it's maybe a hot day. right? And where you're standing, someone's got their armpit right next to your nose. Have you never had that experience? Well, you haven't lived until you've had that experience. I can tell you, I've had a very rich life. Don't spoil your children by sending them in private vehicles to school. Get them on a bus. Get them on the train. Let them experience what life is like, what real life is like. You can be by them just to make sure that they're okay and they're safeguarded. You don't know who's traveling in buses and trains these days, but there's things they need to be able to experience. So if you find that smell very revolting, then that's where the problem is. So your complaint should not be, hey dude, why don't you get a shower before you get on the bus? That should not be what your solution to the problem is. You need to realize that the fact that you can smell something repugnant and you find it revolting, the problem is with you. Because how would you phrase that problem then? How would you phrase that problem? I like pleasant smells. When you say, I don't like the smell of a sweaty armpit, what you're saying is, I like a pleasant smell. That's a problem. This is not an excuse not to shower, by the way. Children? Adults? This is not an excuse not to shower. Why? Because you should never conduct yourself in a way that can be troublesome to others around you. Your conduct should always be compassionate towards all other beings. Verbally, physically, and mentally. Your verbal conduct, your physical conduct, and your mental conduct should always be compassionate towards all other beings. But at the same time, when you experience these things coming as inputs from the outside world, you should not find yourself in a position where you have mental conflict in your mind. You should not be able to smell repugnant smells. You should not find smells revolting. If you do, then you have a problem. So these are some examples. Now I want you all to dig into your lives and find 3 problems that we want to try and fix today. How about that? If by the time you leave this room, you will have fixed those 3 problems. How about if before you walked into this room, you were someone who couldn't drink a tea without sugar? How about if by the time you leave this room, you can be okay with that? See, that's a real victory. Don't you think? That's victory. Because now a cup of tea can't upset you. Right now, if you can't drink your tea without sugar, then a cup of tea can give you a bad day. A cup of tea can ruin your day. Jeez. A cup of tea. This is how you should measure your success on the path to Nibbana, folks. I'm being really open and honest with you all. Because I'm all about practical application of Buddhism into practical life. We all know that we're alive because of all the inputs that we receive from our 5 senses. Our eyes, ears, nose, tongue and body continue to bring us memories or continue to bring us inputs from our world. And also memories from the past. That's another interesting one. Some of you here may have had a parent pass away, either recently or maybe a few years ago, and perhaps just the thought of them, just me reminding you of them, can be quite overwhelming, can be quite emotional. See, so now you're at the mercy of someone who keeps reminding you of them. So if someone comes up to you and if you're very emotional about your dead father, and at this moment you see a movie where a father dies, or someone comes and says, what happened to your father? I haven't seen you in a while. If just someone asking you these words jerks a tear into your eye because you become emotional, see, you're now at their mercy. You remember playing that game, Mercy, in school? Oh, you're all so well behaved. At our school, we had that game. Mercy. You must have all gone to posh schools. What we used to do at our school is we hold someone by the finger and then we twist it, inflicting pain on them, because we are like that. And we keep doing it until the other guy says, mercy, 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 mercy. And then you stop. So we see how much pain the other guy can tolerate. Don't try it. It's not good. It's not a good game. But this is games that we used to play. Not good, but we used to play those games. Don't play them anymore. I don't play that anymore, do I? No. So you're subject to someone's mercy. In other words, you are outsourcing your happiness. If someone else can decide when you're happy and when you're unhappy, don't you think that's a problem? That's a serious problem. Right? So what if, right? Here's my proposal to you. If you're still mourning the loss of a loved one, if you're still mourning the loss of a loved one, what if, by the time you leave this room today, you could have developed your mind, you could have practiced the Dhamma, so much so that by the time you leave this room today, any thought of them does not take away your mental happiness. See, isn't that what true freedom is? You're free now. Of that mental baggage, you're free. This is what the Buddha Dhamma is for. Because right now, your heart breaks at the moment someone says the word Tata, or Apachi, or Dad, Amma, Mother. What happened to your mother? I haven't seen her in a while. And then the girl starts sobbing. Hey, where's your daughter? I haven't seen her in a while. She passed away. And the mother starts sobbing. If you are mourning the loss of a loved one, this is where you need to apply the Buddha's Dhamma. This is where you need to apply anicca, dukkha and anatta. Right? So, 3 things I want you all to come up with. You don't need to share them with me, but you need to have very specific 3 things, because like I said, it has to be a SMART goal. So it has to be specific. If it's not being able to drink tea without sugar, then that's specific. Is it measurable? Right? Let's assume that you're trying to break this affliction to a cup of tea that has to have sugar. That is what you're trying to break now. Is it specific? Of course it is. I can't drink my tea without sugar. So how do we phrase the problem? I want sugar in my tea. That's the problem. I want my tea to taste sweet. That is your problem. That's very specific. Is it measurable? Once you have fixed it, is it measurable? Is it? Of course it is. How do you know it's a problem now? You can't drink it. So how do you know it has been fixed after you fixed it? You can drink it. Now you can't drink it, and after you fixed it, you can drink it. Believe you me, I've tried it and it works. Just early this morning, for breakfast today, we had someone had sent some kola kanda, which is a brew. I was telling Guru Hamdru early this morning, because I was just reminded of it. When I was a young child, I hated that stuff. Just the smell of it was enough to get me to fall sick. I would throw up. Just the smell of it was enough. I found it so disgusting. Just the smell of it was enough to make me sick. And then if Amma had to feed me, had to make me drink kola kanda, she had to put sugar into it, or I had to give me jaggery, a piece of jaggery, or something sweet, because I just couldn't bear the taste of it. And then I was drinking it today and I had no problem at all. And I was thinking to myself, well, hey, this is where we need to have applied anicca. Mallum was the same. Kola mallum. I hated that stuff. Absolutely hated it. I just couldn't bring myself to eat it. But today I have no problem with it. whatsoever. You could give me a plate full of it and I have to have no problem with it. So today I'm free. I'm free of the burden of not being able to do something. See, this is what victory is about. This is where we need to apply the Dhamma, folks. To become free. You should be able to say today you only like to listen to classical music. Okay? I'm telling you, you should all be able to listen to rock music. All of you. If you don't like classical music, you should all be able to listen to classical music. And whatever genre of music there's out there, whether it's hip hop or funk or whatever, you should all be able to listen to all of it. And you should be okay with it. You should not feel a sense of particular attraction to it or a sense of discordance with it. You should be okay with whatever. And this is why last week I said you should be able to put something in your mouth, put it back on the plate, and then put it back in your mouth again without a problem. Did you try it, by the way? How did it go? See, that should be one of your goals. Don't do it when someone else is around. They'll think you've gone mad. But in your own privacy, right? Once you've got your plate with food, put it in your mouth, a mouthful. Put it back on the plate, and then put it back in your mouth. See how that feels. Technically speaking, has anything changed? No. Before it went into the plate, it was rice or whatever, and it was saliva in your mouth. Once it was in the mouth, same. The two just mixed. Out, just the two together, and then back in, the same thing. Nothing's changed. The composition of it hasn't changed. So why do you all of a sudden feel disgusted? These are defilements. This is where you need to apply anicca. This is where you need to apply anicca. Wherever you sense mental conflict, that is where you need to apply anicca. Wherever you sense mental attraction, that is where you need to apply anicca. Again, even with conflict, first you need to find where your attraction is, and that's where you need to apply it. If you are able to do this, folks, I guarantee to you, you will be able to live a happier life, even as lay people. You will have less problems at home. There will be less conflict at home. Arguments will not have a long life. Arguments will be very short-lived. Why do arguments have such long life? Because there's always two parties to an argument. You need two hands to clap. Someone says something, the other has to say something in return. That's when you keep feeding the fire with fuel, and then the argument keeps going on. But if you are okay with whatever is being said to you, how can the argument go on for any length of time? Someone comes and calls you a name, an insulting one at that. If you are able to just be okay with that, okay. Oh, you just called me a dog, fine. You call me an idiot. Idiot what? Idiot. Okay, so fine. You should be able to be okay with that. This is where you need to apply the Dhamma. You should be able to drive your car on the road. Someone pulls up in front of you, right? And what do they do these days? They show you something, right? They put their hand up and then they show you something with the fingers. It's 5 fingers, right? Like this. Oh, sorry, 5 minus 4. And then how does that make you feel? Yeah, like that, yeah. If only. See how the difference in one finger can make all the difference? Facebook is all about this. Right? Just replace this with one other finger. Again, don't you see this is all drushti? This is the mark of friendship. The third finger, the middle finger. That is a mark of conflict. It's all drushti. This is just your perspective on life, on the way you see things. See, it's not the finger that brought you happiness or pain. It's just the way you saw it. This is, I really want you all to feel empowered. I want you all to realize that the power to your happiness lay with you. You can do this. The day you realize that it's not anybody else who's holding the key to your happiness is the day that you are on you set your path to freedom. This is where you need to start, by understanding that it's not anybody else who holds the path to my happiness, or who holds the key to my happiness. It's me and me alone. I can do this. This is what empowering is. Okay, so 3 things, right? Hopefully you've all been able to come up with 3 things now to apply yourself, to apply anicca dukkha anatta too. So how do we apply anicca? We need to think about it the way we talked about last week. Anicca is not a negative, it doesn't have any negative connotations here. We need to look at it in a very positive sense. Because attachment is what is problematic, not anicca. Anicca is a good thing, attachment is a bad thing. It's because of anicca we don't attach. Had it not been for anicca, or the knowledge of it, we would have attached, and well, this is what's happening right now. Without having the knowledge of anicca, we attach and therefore we end up suffering. The knowledge of anicca is so powerful. I gave you some examples to understand this. A wet floor will have a board on it. What does it say? Wet floor. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for the board to be there? Of course it's a good thing. Thanks to the board, you're not going to slip and have a fall. A hot iron is going to have a little bulb on it. Thanks to it, you're not going to touch it. We talked about a tester, electrical tester. It has a light on it. Thanks to that, you won't get yourself electrocuted. Some people have beware the dogs on their gates. As other people have, the dogs are okay, beware the master. Either way, right? Thanks to the board, thanks to the notice on the gate, right? We can be protected. This is how we can avoid pain. The knowledge of anicca is so powerful. What is the knowledge of anicca? If you attach, you will suffer. Simple. Who here is not old enough to understand this? Who here is not educated enough to understand this really simple logic? If you attach, you will suffer. How complicated is that? If you attach, you will suffer. It's so simple. The best things in life are so simple. Simplicity is what makes Buddhist philosophy so powerful. It's so simple. Some people have this view that Buddhism is very complicated. And the problem, some of the reasons for that is because people go down lots of different avenues. They start turning the pages of the Tripitaka, they listen to a lot of different sermons and go down Abhidharma and Vinaya and all these things. You don't need all of that. If freedom from suffering is what you seek, then Buddhist philosophy is so simple. There's nothing been simpler. If you attach, you will suffer. That is that knowledge which is so powerful. That is why they say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, yes, I agree to that now. The knowledge of anicca makes you powerful. This is why I said last week there's a distinction between vexation and vexatious. Vexation is the noun. This is the time to experience it. Vexatious is the adjective. It's the knowledge of vexation. Vexatious is a knowledge. If you attach, you shall vex. That's a knowledge. One who is empowered with this knowledge will know now that all I have to do is not attach. That's it. Do you remember the wet paint board? Right, we talked about that. There's a bench that has just been freshly painted. Thanks to the wet paint board, you're not going to touch it. Had the board not been there, you might have touched it. And then you would have gotten angry. You would have gotten paint all over yourself. But thanks to the board, you're not going to touch it. Are you not glad that they put a board on it? Of course. Of course. At the petrol station, what do they have? It says hazard, right? Flammable. Don't light a cigarette. Don't use your mobile phone because you could start up a fire. It's hazardous. It means be careful, be cautious, beware. Who has ever complained about a beware sign? No, you wouldn't complain about that. What you would complain is if the sign wasn't there. That's when you would complain. It's when that knowledge is not communicated to us, that's when we complain. Say, like, for example, okay, if you've bought something, a lot of you may have an experience of this. When you buy something, particularly on the internet, if you've ever done any shopping on eBay, for instance, they'll say on there, eBay has a 30-day money-back guarantee. Certain products, a lot of products which qualify for their 30-day money-back guarantee will have it, 30-day money-back guarantee. And then they say, in order to qualify for this, you have to abide by these conditions. Provided that you use this item in accordance with the user's instructions, then you are able to return it. What if they didn't say that? But they assume that you knew it. They won't say it, but they'll assume that you know it. Or for example, you buy something, if you break the packaging, we won't accept a return. Has that not happened to you? Sometimes you take it back and say, Mata, you broke the packaging, we can't take it now. And then you say, well, you didn't tell that to me earlier. Well, we thought you knew. We thought you knew. What if it had a sticker on the box saying, do not open the packaging if you wish to return this item. Or bring it back within 30 days and we will accept it. Are you not glad that that sticker is there? Because now it empowers you with the knowledge. If you want to return it, then this is what you need to do. In fact, you would even complain to the retailer, how come if you weren't going to accept it, why did you not put a notice up on there? Why did you not put the sticker on there? If you ever done any freight or sent any parcels abroad, then you have a fragile sticker on boxes which you put into your cargo. Who's ever complained that there's been a fragile sticker on a box? What does it say, fragile? Had it not been for this sticker, I could have thrown it. No, you don't say like that. You're grateful, you're glad that there's a sticker that you can put on the box so that your items are prevented from breakage. Whoever complained about a do not park here sign? Well, you might have complained because what you're thinking is, well, see, if it's not for the sign, I could have parked here. But if there's a sign say, park at your own risk. If you park here, you shall be charged, you shall be fined 1,000 rupees. Right, now there's a sign there. If you park here, you'll be fined 1,000 rupees. Would you rather the sign was up there or it wasn't there? They're going to fine you anyway. They're going to fine you regardless. Are you glad that there's a sign there, or are you glad that there is no sign there? You're glad that there's a sign there. Thanks to the sign, now you won't park there, and therefore you won't have to cough up the money. If there weren't a sign there, you would complain. Actually, I remember once when I was back in the UK, once I had parked somewhere, and if there's a double yellow line, you can't park there. Sometimes you have a fragmented line, and then you can only park on certain days, and on the board it has to say when you can park and when you can't park. So I think it's called restricted parking. Yes, that's what it's called. So once I got a parking ticket. What they do is they send you a ticket to your home address, or the address to which the vehicle is registered. So when I got this letter, of course you can imagine I was disappointed. Usually it's about £50 you have to pay as a fine. So that's about 20,000 rupees. It's a lot of money. So you look at that and you think, oh, but I was so damn sure that you could park up there and it shouldn't be a problem. Because I had read the signage and it said, restricted parking on these times, these days, and so on. You could park on these days, you couldn't park on the other days. So the first thing I did was I got back in my car and I drove the vehicle back to where I had parked the earlier day, the day before, or I think it was about a week before, and I went and read the sign again. I had read it wrong the last time. I had thought it was a Saturday when actually it was a Sunday. Oh, I think I thought it was a Sunday when actually it was a Saturday. You are able to park on Sundays, just not Monday to Saturday. I thought it was a Sunday. See, I am glad that there's a sign up there that says restricted parking. Well, it's my fault for not having read it properly. And the same goes for Anicca. The same goes for Anicca. Whose fault is it that I got a parking ticket? Is it the people who laid out the roads, or is it the people who put the parking lines, or is it the people who put out the signage? Whose fault is it? It's my fault. Why is it my fault? I didn't read the sign properly. Whose mistake was it? My mistake. It was clearly put on, a sign clearly said, if you park here today, you are subject to a fine. Don't complain about it because you have been informed. I just didn't read it properly. Why do we attach to things? Because we don't read the warning sign properly. That's why. There's warning signs on all these things. Can you see them? Can you see a skull and two bones like this? On all of this, everything. On your children, on your husband, on your wife. I know I think of husband, yes, I can see it right on his face. That's how I see him anyway. But that is the warning sign. And the warning sign is, do not attach, you will suffer. If you don't read the sign, then whose fault is it? It's my fault. Only we are to blame. Not Anicca. We are to blame. But that's a good thing. Because now all we have to do is read the sign properly and then do as it says. It says, do not attach. No matter what you do, just don't attach. Provided you don't attach, you won't suffer. That's it. See? To put it in really simple terms, okay? There's only one thing. There's only one thing that you mustn't do with all worldly things. You can do anything else, just not one thing. What is that one thing? Attach. Without attachment, do whatever you like. Just don't do that one thing, and that is attach. Because if you attach, you shall suffer. Not you may suffer, you shall suffer. It's not you may, okay? It's not you may suffer, you may, might. There's a chance. No. It's not there's a chance you may suffer, you will suffer. You shall suffer. If you attach, you will suffer. And that is the knowledge of dukkha. That is the knowledge of dukkha. Dukkha is not suffering. When the Buddha speaks of anicca, dukkha, anatta, he speaks of the knowledge of dukkha. The knowledge of dukkha, the knowledge of abhisankara dukkha, and the knowledge of viparinama dukkha. This is the knowledge of dukkha. If you attach yourself, then dukkha, viparinama dukkha, and sankhara dukkha will come your way. You can't stop it. It's inevitable. But the knowledge of it can prevent it from coming into your lives. Can prevent it from turning your life into a hell, a living hell. Without this knowledge, you will suffer. So it's the knowledge of dukkha, viparinama dukkha, and sankhara dukkha that we all need to empower ourselves with. And then of course finally anatta. So this is what you need to be practicing in a moment now. Anatta. Why do we attach ourselves to things? Because we expected pleasure. We expected pleasure, this is why we attached. But ultimately it brought us no pleasure. All it brought us was vexation. Why did we attach to things? Because we thought it was going to bring us joy. But ultimately it only brought us suffering. So we went looking for pleasure, we went looking for joy, we came back home with vexation and with suffering. How on earth can you say that that item or that thing or that person or whatever, Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, that we attached ourselves was essential? The process of attachment is simply non-essential, essenceless, meaningless and futile, because it's not a source of joy, it's not a source of pleasure. This is the anatta nature that we need to contemplate on. So, what I want you to do now then, take examples from your life. 3 examples. Start with 1, of course, and then we will work to the other 2. Start with 1, because for some of you it will take very little time to work on that 1. Take one which is small in size, not a big one, not an easy one. What is easy? May be hard for me, might be easy for you, because we're all different in that way. It will either be a rupa, a shabda, gandha, rasa or sparsha, so sight, sound, smell, taste or touch, or a memory, a mental memory of something. Right? Like I said, it could be a mental image of something, right? Someone likes flowers. Someone likes certain designs, fashion, whatever. And for others it will be sounds. For others it will be smells. For others it will be a taste. And for others it will be a physical sensation. And for others it will be a mental image of something. Whatever it might be. So perhaps it may be that you have a favorite a film actor. The thought of him or her is always something that brings pleasure into your mind. So you know then that there's a problem there, because you want to see his or movies in which he or she stars in. That's a problem, because you like, this is what you like, this is what you want. Right? So take 3 problems from your life, apply the knowledge of anicca. What is it? The knowledge of anicca. The knowledge of anicca is, imagine that it's got a beware sign, a danger sign. If you touch it, you will suffer. Mentally, if you attach yourself, you will suffer. You will suffer threefold. Dukkha dukkha. What is dukkha dukkha again? It's the what if suffering. What if? Can I get it? What if I won't be able to get it? Right? Any kind of suffering that you can end with the word what if, or start with the words what if. What if it might happen? What if it might not happen? What if I get to see it? What if I go blind? Isn't that a problem? If you like to see these flowers, okay, tell me what are some of the what if problems you might have? You like these flowers. What are some of the what if problems you might have? Start with the flower. What if? What if they wither? Why do people have plastic flowers nowadays? Because they don't like the what if of withering. That's why. What if they wither away and die? Now I can't see the flowers. So what if? What if someone takes it? Imagine this is your flower vase at home, where you kept it on the fireplace or wherever in the middle of your living room. Right? It's the centerpiece attraction of your living room, of your flower vase. Now there are lots of what if problems there. What if the cat jumps on the table and knocks it, and it goes rolling on the desk and falls and breaks? Now there's a what if. So the moment that the cat jumps on the table, what does your heart do? It skips a beat. That's what the heart does. Because fear comes in quickly. That's why there's a what if now. What if? And so that's with the flowers. What else? Your eyes. If your eyes go blind, or any other kind of visual impairment, doesn't have to be blindness, could be any other visual impairment, there's a problem. Do you not go and get your eyes checked up every few months? Why? You're worried. And then to keep your eyesight at optimum level, you have to do things. You got to feed, you have to eat the right foods. Are you not careful about what kind of foods you eat? Your vitamin A's, your vitamin K's, right? All these nutriments you need in the right order, in the right composition in your food. So this is all abhisankara that you have to do to keep your eyesight, to maintain your eyesight. These things have to be washed. They have to be cleaned. They have to be locked up somewhere so it doesn't get, the elements don't destroy it. This is all things we have to do. This is all abhisankara. So abhisankara dukkha comes with the package to avoid the what if dukkha. You have to do abhisankara to avoid the what if dukkha, the dukkha. And then ultimately there's always going to be viparinama dukkha. That is unavoidable. Even if you could keep these plastic flowers for 10 years, well, one day your eyesight's going to go. One day you're going to die. I'm not even talking about the chittas which arise and pass away, because for that, if you go into that level, then, of course, some of you will be able to contemplate on that level. The mind arises and passes away. So at the rate of the mind arising and passing away, you're experiencing dukkha, sankhara dukkha and viparinama dukkha. But even if you can't go down to that level, you know that one day you're going to have to leave everyone else behind you. And all the people that you love, you're going to have to leave behind. All the things you love, you're going to have to leave all that behind. No one dies happy. Don't forget that. No one's had a happy death. That's just a fairy tale. Only someone who does not have a heart that can be broken, an unbreakable heart. Only someone with an unbreakable heart can actually die happy. Because when you die, you're leaving everything that you love behind. You can't stop death, but what you can stop is attachment. Let go of attachment, then death is not a problem. You see, you're not preparing yourself for death if you don't reflect on anicca dukkha anatta. Don't you see there's a problem with that? Who here is not going to die? Okay, you're all going to die. Should you not prepare yourself for death? When should you start preparing yourself for death? After retirement, right? I saw it on an advert recently. I think there was a newspaper. It said, "Don't leave the burden of your affairs after you're gone to your loved ones. Sort them all out while you're still around." But nowadays you can go and actually prepare all that in advance. You can pay for your funerals. You can pay up for your right. Yeah, apparently you can do all that now. You can pay for where you're going to be buried. You can pay for your whatever. Yeah, everything can be paid up front now. So you don't have to leave the burden of that to your children and whoever is going to be left behind. So when people start preparing for that is after retirement age. When you're 60, 65, 70, that's when you have to start preparing for that. I'm telling you, start preparing for death now. Start preparing for death now. Because that's not the preparation that I'm talking about. This is not about funeral arrangements. To hell with funeral arrangements. Let them worry about it. If they can't give you a good funeral, then let them throw you to the dogs. Who cares? Who's going to be insulted if they throw you to the dogs? Put your hand up. When I die, I wouldn't. If my children throw me to the dogs, I'm going to be so offended. I'm going to come back and I'm going to teach them a good lesson. God, you're dead. You won't know what they're going to be doing to you. You won't know what's happening to you after you're dead. So I say, work out your funeral arrangements if you want to. But I say, let them worry about it. If they can't afford a good funeral, then let them throw you to the dump. Let them give your remains to some university or somewhere where they can chop you up and slice you up and do all their experiments and learn from your body what's left over. That's why who am I to suggest? That's what I did. So I think when I was a layperson, I'd already done that. And I said, when I'm gone, then give my body up to some university where medical students can do their experiments. I mean, who cares? Who cares? People are so concerned about what's going to happen to them after they're dead, to their body. But no one thinks about what's going to happen to their mind. So really, what I'm asking you to do is start making your funeral arrangements. Now. Not for the body. To hell with the body. Start making your funeral arrangements for your mind. Who here has to start doing that? All of us. At what age should you start doing that? Now. Is anyone too young for that? No. Is anyone too old for that? Still no. This is about making funeral arrangements. Funeral arrangements. Jayaratna can't help you with that, I'm afraid. You have to come to Jetavana for that. Because here we teach you how to make your funeral arrangements. Prepare your mind for death. I'm not talking about something so morbid, oh, I'm going to die. No, we're not talking about that. Make death peaceful. You, although you don't know it, you're dying right now. Every chitta which arises experiences death. So the breaking down of your body and the physical death that you experience is just another one of these. Except the only problem is, whatever you're leaving, you can't see again. That is why people fear death so much. You won't be able to see them. You won't be able to see your friends. You won't be able to see your children again. You won't be able to see your husband again. You won't be able to see your wife again, and all the empire that you built up around you, the entire world you built up around you, you won't be able to see them again. That's why people fear death so much. What can you do? You can't stop it. Why try and worry about something you can't stop? Don't you think that's useless? Being fearful about something that cannot be stopped, that cannot be prevented. What's the point of that? You can't stop death. You can only stop birth. Have you ever heard of death control? There's a pill for that now. Death control pills. Heard of that? Now what do they have? Birth control. That's what I'm here to teach you. Birth control. Take that out of the context and they'll take my robe away. I'm here to teach you about birth control. Because you can't stop death. So let's not fear about death. Let it come. What's the problem? The cause of death is being born. Stop that. Then all problems are solved. So start making funeral arrangements. Think about it this way, right? Remember I said think about 3 problems? Think about it this way. If you were to die now, let's say at the end of this hour, okay, I'm going to get you all to start, say at 4 o'clock. At the end of the hour, if I would guarantee that you would die in an hour's time, what 3 things would you struggle to leave behind? What 3 things would hurt you most if you were to die now, in an hour's time? What 3 things? Those 3 things are the things on which you need to reflect on, anicca dukkha anatta. Now. You need to start doing it now. Why? Start making what arrangements? Funeral arrangements. Start making them now. If you can sort them out, I tell you, at the end of the hour, I can't stop you from dying. I can't stop that, but you will have a peaceful death. That is how one can have a peaceful death. When you are okay to leave behind the things you're leaving behind. Because if you are having to leave behind things you want to take with you, problem, big problem. I can't stop you from leaving. I can only show you how to let go of the things you're attached to, so that when you go, you won't need to take them with you. That is the only thing I can help you do. This is how we need to start making funeral arrangements. Start making funeral arrangements. 3 things. 3 things which you will struggle to leave behind. For some of you it might be your children. For others it might be a husband, maybe a wife, maybe a brother, maybe a sister. I don't know what it is for each of you. I know what it is for me, but I don't know what it is for you, madam. I don't know what it is for you, sir. Or for you, sir. I don't know what it is for you. Each one for himself. Horses for courses. Each one for themselves. You need to work out what it is for you. And then ask yourself, now, do you not have the dukkha? What if? What if? What if I have to go now? You don't have to leave it behind. Then abhisankara dukkha. What can I do to stop it from happening? Then viparinama dukkha. No matter what you do, it's going to happen anyway. So dukkha is going to come to you anyway. You can't stop it. Why are you trying to stop something which cannot be stopped? It cannot be stopped. Suffering cannot be stopped unless you acquire the knowledge of suffering. Then you can stop suffering. Vexation cannot be stopped unless you acquire the knowledge of vexation or vexatious. Then vexation can be stopped. If you acquire the knowledge of vexation, vexation can be stopped. If you acquire the knowledge of suffering, then suffering can be stopped. What you need to do now is apply that knowledge into the three things which you find really difficult to leave behind. Okay? So let's take a moment, let's take some time. Ask yourself what these three things are and apply anicca. Remember, it's a knowledge. You should feel joyful as you keep applying it, because the more you reflect on it, the more you realize that the less you are attaching yourself, and therefore the more you are being free. This is an activity of seeking freedom. This is not about letting go, by the way. This is an activity of seeking freedom. You're being freed. You're being liberated. This is what this is about. The practice of liberation. Let's try it out, and then we'll talk about the results. If you have problems after that, we'll talk about them. We'll discuss, and I'll help you find answers. Okay, so you ask for my guidance, I will guide you. But of course, first we need to practice it. I can only point out which way you need to lean if I can see you cycling and then falling. So, but first you need to get on the bike. And you need to start cycling. I can't watch you standing next to your bike and tell you where you're making mistakes. First you need to get on the bike. Now cycle. And then I'll watch you as you fall. And then I'll tell you, right. You need to lean to the left a little bit. Don't pedal too fast. Just take it slow. But first you need to do it. Otherwise you're asking me, Swaminas, I'm standing next to the bike. What mistakes am I making? How do I know? Get on the bike first. Okay? So we'll practice it for a little while, and then when we stop, let's see what reactions we have, or what experience you have, and then we'll try and find some answers to them. Do you all know what you're doing now? Are you all clear on what you have to do now? This can't be vague. You have to be clear. If you don't know, put your hand up. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. I asked you about three things, three problems you have in your regular day-to-day lives. It could be sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, or thoughts of someone, something that keep coming back and troubling you. Okay? Don't worry about sleep. If you say, I have bad dreams, what can I do? No, let's not worry about that. I'm talking about when you're awake, right? Nightmares, let's not go there. I'm talking about when you're awake, what things trouble you, what things bring you problems into your life. Okay? Take three things. Find the true problem first. And you are very good at identifying what the problem was, because you stopped me the moment I said the problem word. You stopped me when I said I like. You stopped me when I said I want. Good. That's very good. Which means you're now capable of identifying the problem. So whatever problem you have, identify the real problem, identify the true problem, and now ask yourself, why is it that I want? It's because I like. I like it. I have a personal preference. Why do I have a personal preference? And that's because I see them as being pleasurable. When in reality, it's actually vexatious. It's the knowledge of vexatiousness that you need to apply now. You see them as being sources of joy. So children, for example, you might see as being a source of joy. This is why you long for a call from them. If they don't call you in you used to listen to them, or receiving a call from them once a month. Maybe it's that for some of you. That if your parents and your children don't live with you now, it may be that once a month they call you and you wait for that call. Is that not vexation? You're waiting for the call. Is that not vexation? And when it doesn't materialize, now you start worrying, you start fearing. What might have happened? Why haven't they called yet? Are they okay? Is something the problem? And you switch on the news. If you haven't heard them for about a week now, you switch on the news. Oh, there's been some kind of problem in the country, right? Perhaps they're abroad. Right? Now problems. See? Attachment causes suffering. So if it's children, then realize the vexatiousness. That's why I said beware. Think about the beware sign. And reflect on that knowledge. You went looking for pleasure, you got vexation. You went looking for joy, you got suffering. Now then finally you can ask yourself the question, is it essence-full or essence-less? And when you get the response back, essence-less, attachment will start to disappear. You don't have to do anything about it. You can heal attachment like that. You don't have to do anything with attachment. It's ignorance that has to be treated. Okay? So let's practice that for a little while, and then when we stop, we'll see how it goes. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Etam santam etam panitam yadidam sabba sankhara samato sabbo padipati Nisaggo tanhakyo virago nirodho nibbananti kinam puranam navannati sambhavam viratta citta ayatike bhavasmin te kina bija avirohi chanda Nibbanti dhira yathayam padipo. Nibbanti dhira yathayam padipo. Nibbanti dhira yathayam padipo. Right. So you practice that for about half an hour now. Before we try and do that again, I want to ask you how it will go. Did you have things to apply? That's the first question. Did you have scenarios from your life, problems that you thought were suitable to apply? Give me one, and I'll give you one of mine. Who wants to volunteer? Okay, I'll go first, as you are so eager. I am someone who likes unity. I like people to be able to work together and to live together and be in unity. So I like people not to fight, not to get into arguments. I like people to have companionship and camaraderie between each other. I like that. So that's a problem that I have, the fact that I like it. So our monks will know that I'm always an advocate of that. I always ask them to work together, to be together. Don't let things come in between yourselves. If you have problems with each other, then go and talk about it and get them resolved. Don't let problems linger, and then don't let it fester and ruin a good relationship. So I'm someone who likes that, and that is my problem. So this is one of the things that I'm tackling as a problem, because I should be able to advocate unity without being attached to it. Right? So unity is a good thing, but my attachment to it, that's not a good thing. So this is one of the things I'm fighting with. It's good for people to work together and to not let petty issues between people to disrupt their harmony. But my attachment to it and my wanting for people to be like that, now of course that is a problem. Some of you may have that as a problem. So this is one of my problems. So the way I see it then is I look at it as being anicca. I see that this idea, this concept of unity is vexatious. In other words, if I mentally have an attachment for unity to exist, for people to be working in harmony, then if I have a mental attachment to that, then I will suffer as a result of that. Because you see, for as long as I have that as something I want, am I not constantly vexing about it? I'll always be thinking, for example, if I have a group of monks working together, maybe anagarikas working together, or perhaps when our devotees come to the monastery and they work on something together, whenever there's a project and there's people working together, deep down in my mind I'm always thinking, might something happen that might disrupt their unity? See, I'm always vexing about it. Might someone say something to somebody else which might cause disharmony between them? Might there be an altercation? Might there be a problem? Even if it's not expressed verbally, might there be something that someone picks up which might hurt their feelings? And then that ill will, that resentment is what they take away with them. And then from that day onwards, the two of them will not get along with each other. So this is something that I'm vexing about. So then dukkha kicks in. What if someone says something to somebody and I think, he shouldn't have said that. Now I'm thinking, what if? What if that guy took it the wrong way? What if what they just talked about between each other is a spark which is going to cause a massive problem between the two of them? This is the what if that problem that I'm going to have now. And then I'm going to do abhisankara. To relieve myself of that vexation, I'll have to do things now. I'll have to go and talk to them. What he said, he didn't mean it in a bad way, right? I overheard the conversation, so don't take it personally. He must have just said it, because he was in a rush. See, now I feel the need to go and say things like that because I'm vexing. Sometimes if I see two people having, maybe exchanging words which I feel, I'm not sure that the tone of those words might have been received in a different way, in a wrong way, then I will usually make an opportunity to go and speak to the person who said it and say, next time, how about you express it differently? Or I might even say, the person that you are talking to, they might have misunderstood what you said, so maybe you should go and just clear the air out. Just go and talk to them and see if there was a problem. Perhaps they misunderstood you. Would you mind just go and doing that for me? I'll even say that. Would you mind doing me a favor and just go and talk to the other person and make sure that they didn't misunderstand what you were saying? This is Abhisankara. It has to be done, yes. But now I'm not doing it just because it has to be done. I'm doing it because I'm vexing. So isn't that a problem? Yes. And then of course there's going to be viparinama. There's only so much Abhisankara I can do. One day it's going to fall. And then when I see disharmony, when I see harmony disrupted, then that is going to be a cause of my suffering. Or that's going to be a moment where I'm going to start suffering. So, why did I want harmony between people? Because I saw that as being pleasurable. That's a good thing. It's nice for people to be able to get along with each other. This is an idea that I hold on to. I expect joy from that. I like to see people happy. I like to see people getting along with each other. I like to see people working with each other without any bad words being exchanged, without any ill will. So I went for that, looking for joy. I went for that, looking for pleasure. But what did I get? Vexation, and then dukkha, sankhara dukkha, and viparinama dukkha. So is it essence-full or essence-less? Essence-less. In other words, looking for joy and pleasure from that idea is meaningless. That is what essence-less means. That's what anatta means. Looking for joy from that idea that people should be able to get along with each other is meaningless. But is it bad for people to work with each other and live in harmony and get along with each other? Is that a bad thing? No, of course not. That's a good thing. That's good. And we should always be advocates of that. We should all be ambassadors of that. Harmony and people getting along with each other. The Buddha was the greatest advocate of that. He spoke to his monks always and said, monks, you should always embrace unity, work together, come together, discuss things together, and then walk away in unity. He was an advocate of unity, but never once was he attached to that concept of unity, and therefore he never suffered when his monks would fall apart. Right? So this is what I applied it to. In the half an hour that I was practicing it, I was thinking about how the knowledge of vexation is what I need about the concept of unity. And so I reflected on that. And I reflected on the knowledge of dukkha. Not the feeling or not the experience of dukkha, but the knowledge of it. And I applied it to this idea. So the more I continue to do it, eventually there's going to be a day where I will still be an advocate of unity. But when I see people become disharmonious, I'll just be able to accept it and say, okay, I will do what I can do, but that will be it. I'm not going to bend over backwards. And I'm not going to let it hurt my heart will be unbreakable. That is what I'm trying to get to. So that's an example of where I was applying myself. Right? Siblings, right? Brothers, sisters, they fight. They don't get along with each other sometimes. They have arguments, they fight over little things, toys and mother's love, and let's see who can touch Ammi first. Right? All these little things, right? And so when, as a parent, you want your children to get along with each other, of course, work towards it, but without vexing. You must at home, you must teach your children to get along with each other. But if you vex about it, that's where the problem is. Without any mental pain, mental suffering or agony, you should be able to do it. This is where you have to be able to draw a line between vexation and fulfilling your duty and responsibility. They are not one and the same. You should be able to fulfill your duties and responsibilities without vexing about it. Vexation is a mental problem. Fulfilling your duties and responsibilities, that is something else. That is something we should all do. When you start applying this, you will start to see what the challenges are. Right? Until you start working through your math problems, you don't know where your points of pain or where the bits where you don't understand are. Right? So it's through application you begin to realize this. See, the Buddha is the best example in a lot of these things. He even admonished his monks when they couldn't get along with each other. He rebuked them. He said, how dare you behave like this in my Shasana? You should all be able to get along with each other. Sometimes he would shout at them, but without anger. He can shout without being angry. He can advocate unity without being attached to it. Because you see, attachment is the only source of suffering. It's the only problem. Attachment, that's the only problem. People getting along with each other is not the cause of my suffering. Therefore, people not getting along with each other is also not the cause of my suffering. Attachment is the cause of suffering. So how do we draw this fine line? The best thing to do is to reflect on the knowledge of anicca. Because when you reflect on that knowledge of anicca, which is that this is vexatious, the only thing that will happen is that attachment will start to drop. Nothing else will drop. If you contemplate on anicca properly, the only thing that will happen is attachment will be treated. Nothing else. You will continue to do your duties, you will continue to fulfill your responsibilities, right? So whatever your roles, right, might be that you are the manager for an organization, or you're the team leader. So one of the things that team leaders will always have is problems in the team. People don't get along with each other. And this is what people are, right? They don't get along with each other. Because everyone has their own likes and dislikes. Everyone has preferences. Why? This is a team of arahants? No. So, this is about being mature about it, right? You know that you're the leader of a group of people who are not arahants. What is the defining characteristic of people who are not arahants? They have a self. And when there's a self, there's a personal preference. It's very normal then. We must accept that. It's very remember, I think a few weeks ago, I talked to you, and in one of the sermons I said, whatever weakness you have, accept it as being normal. First, accept it. Be okay with your weakness. Be okay with the fact that you might have failed. What that means is not that, I failed, I'm not going to do anything about it anymore. That's not what it means. It's not about, I have a weakness and I'm not going to do anything about it anymore. That's not the okay I'm talking about. First, accept it. I have a problem. Okay, now let's deal with it. Because it starts with acceptance, right? So as a team leader, for instance, you will have people in a team who will, remember this is not a team of arahants, so they'll all have a self, and each of those individuals will want to foster their self. And they'll all be interested in self-preservation, which is very normal for them. How can you expect anything else? In fact, if it were anything else, they wouldn't need someone like you to do it, to do the job. Why do you need a team leader if they're able to lead themselves? You wouldn't need a team leader. You would need a shepherd if the animals that you are looking after weren't sheep. You need a shepherd because the animals you are rearing, you are looking after are sheep. The sheep don't go in a line unless instructed to, unless beaten with a stick. Right? So first, let's accept that the problem is normal. Let's find out the cause of the problem, and then let's deal with that. So as a team leader, you will always have people who will not align sometimes to the vision. They'll have their own goals and their own aims. First of all, let's accept that that is the way it is. It is the way it is. One of the karmasthanas I gave one of our foreign visitors who came to the monastery, he had a really difficult time accepting himself. He always thought that he was not good enough. He always thought that he was responsible, so he had some This was a long time ago. He had some of the members of his family. Right? They had challenges at home. They had some problems at home, and he always kept feeling responsible for the problems that they have at home. So if ever, for example, the mother and the father, they got into an argument, the child would feel that I am responsible for their arguments. I am responsible for the disharmony at home. The karmasthana that I gave this person was, it's okay the way it is. Or it's perfect the way it is. Accept it first. It's okay. It's okay the way it is. It's okay. First accept it. Then let's deal with it. But first accept it. It's okay. Yeah, it's the way it is, right? It's not my being. It's not me who caused this problem. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. Now let's deal with the problem. The problem comes when I make it my problem. Right? So going back to the gentleman, and also, there's a lot of similar traits between what you talked about there, sir, and how I feel about certain things. Is the way I tackle with this problem myself is, when I see that people don't get along with each other, first I tell myself, well, how else would you expect them to be? Of course they're not going to get along with each other. I'm not trying to lead arahants here. This is the way they are. What else would I expect? It's exactly, that's the way it is. As a teacher, right? Expect that your students will come to school without having done their homework. Expect that of them. That is the way it is. It's okay the way it is. It's normal. That is normal. If your husband comes home after a bad day at work, long tiring day at work, right? A lot of deadlines, and he's very stressed out. And then what can you expect from him now? Is he going to be his normal good self? No. He may be, he may not be. So whatever reaction you get from him when he gets back home, first tell yourself, well, that's the way it is. It's okay. It's okay the way it is. That's a sign of maturity. Immature people aren't able to handle the situation. Because what happens otherwise is, the husband comes home with his personal preference, I have my personal preference, and now there's a clash of personal preferences. I want you to be like this. You're not the way I like you to be. You want me to behave in a certain way, and I'm not the way you want me to be. Now there's a lot of personal clashes. This is again egos fighting with each other. This is what I tell myself. Right? I should be able to deal with a problem without making it my problem. So I contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta and apply that knowledge to this problem. I see that unity between people is good, but my expectation of that is not good. Unity is vexatious. It's vexation? No, it's vexatious. It's vexatious. If I attach, I shall suffer. So this is why when you contemplate on anicca, the only thing that will happen is attachment will start to subdue and will start to extinguish. Attachment is the only thing that can be treated with the medicine of anicca. Nothing else can be treated. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that attachment is the only disease that can be treated with anicca dukkha anatta. Nothing else can be treated. Duty and responsibility, they can't be treated with anicca. Or you can practice ungratefulness. Now duty and responsibility, yes, they'll start going away. You can practice ungratefulness sanya. Right? But if you practice anicca sanya, anatta sanya, the only things that will be treated is the cause of suffering. What is the only cause of suffering? Attachment. It's not disharmony. That's not the cause of suffering. That's not the cause of suffering. Two people are having a fight. Is that the cause of suffering? No. My attachment, I want them not to fight. That's the cause of suffering. So this is why the Buddha was so right. He was bang on the money when he said anicca dukkha anatta. Because the medicine of anicca can only treat the problem of attachment. It can't treat anything else. And isn't that a good thing? Oh, it's very good. Because it won't treat anything else. Remember, the Buddha comes into this world to teach us the cause of suffering. First he teaches us about suffering. Then he teaches us about the cause of suffering. Then he says, this is the medicine for suffering. And once you've taken the medicine, suffering will be gone. He's only here to teach us about the knowledge of suffering, the cause of it, the treatment of it, and the path. That is what he teaches us. So what we must do is anicca sanya. That's it. This is why I say, if you look at anicca from a very positive angle, even something as, because usually, you know what, when people get this the wrong way, they apply anicca to incidents and events which are not in their favor. Like two people are having a fight and they go, anicca. That's not when you should be, that's not where you need to apply this. I'm talking about a positive thing, unity. See, we don't complain about unity, do we? In fact, we advocate unity. We say unity is a good thing. Even then you should be able to apply anicca. Because what you're saying is, I see that unity is vexatious. If I attach to it, I will suffer. So really, tell me then, you and your husband, you're having a really good relationship with each other, a very good understanding relationship, you don't have any arguments, no fights, right? You're the couple of the year. Can you not contemplate on anicca? It's the best time to contemplate on anicca. Most people will bring anicca in when they start to fall apart. When the husband's not doing what she wants him to do, when they start to have arguments, then they start to think, anicca. No. Now you're getting the wrong end of anicca. This is also a very fine line. The application of anicca, because it's the knowledge of anicca that is important, not vexation. That's not what we are reflecting on. Vexatious. Remember, these two words are worlds apart. The meanings are worlds apart. A glass is fragile. What's the point of talking about it after it's broken? When must we be concerned about the fragile nature of a glass? Is it before or after it's broken? Before it's broken. Once it's broken and shattered into pieces, what's the point of talking about it being fragile? Then the only thing you can say, see, I told you it was fragile. I told you no. What's the point of talking about it then? Because now you're just pointing a finger. And now you're just finding blame. And this is just finger pointing. But if you are able to educate people, make them knowledgeable, hey, this is fragile. So be careful. Now that's useful. Is it useful to talk about it being fragile after it's broken? What's the point? Now it's too little, too late. Tell me before it's broken. Okay. Now I know I have to be careful with it. What's the point of telling me that fire burns you after I put my finger into it? Don't tell me then. Now I know it. Now it's too late. Talk to me before the event, not after. So when you're in a really good relationship, there's no such thing as a good relationship, but I'm talking about in a worldly sense, right? You need to be able to have the intelligence to work out what meaning I convey with the words I give to you. So when you're in a healthy relationship, let's put it that way, so right, it's not an abusive relationship, and there's a good understanding between each other, right? That's the time you need to contemplate on anicca. Vexatious. If I attach to this, I will suffer. So once you've understood that, does the wife no longer fulfill her duties and responsibilities? Of course she will. Why? She understands. She understands, one, that if you attach, you will suffer, and two, this is the result of causes. Both these meanings are important to capture in the word anicca. One, if you attach, you will suffer. Two, it's a result of causes. If you attach, you will suffer also because it's the result of causes. Right? So that is the resounding concept behind all of it. It's the result of causes. For as long as the causes are in its favor, then you shall be able, the result will manifest. But as a result of that, if you attach yourself to it, you will suffer. Because, well, it's a result of causes, not the result of your liking. So both these ideas are important to contemplate on. But the second, or the first one that we talked about is, this is an easier part to understand. If you attach, you will suffer. If you attach, you will suffer. Your children are still alive. When do you need to talk about them being anicca? After they die? No. While they're still alive. While they're still alive. If you attach, you will suffer. Remember, it's not only after it breaks, because when people talk about anicca, after the event, they're only talking about a very small part of anicca. Because the dukkha part, they completely ignore. Because now they're talking about viparinama dukkha. But the dukkha and the abhisankara dukkha, those two parts, they completely ignore when you talk about anicca after the event. A glass is fragile. That knowledge of anicca is important for you to understand the dukkha part. What if? That's why when you keep it too close to the table, to the edge of the table, you will move it away from the edge. Because this is abhisankara. It's breakable. It's fragile. Once it's broken, now you're just talking about viparinama dukkha. What about the dukkha? The what if? The what if was always there from the moment you wanted it to be okay. From the moment you attached yourself to it, it started. Not a moment later. The moment you wanted it, it started. Right? Family members, particularly, you have to be very careful when you deal with them. Right? Because friends, you can let go of them when you feel like you don't want them anymore. But when it's family, we don't choose our family. It gets chosen for us. Right? Karma decides who's our family. So you have to be very careful in those situations. This is again where duty and responsibility you need to be able to distinguish between that, draw the distinction between that and our mental vexation. If you remember the great elder Sariputta's story, I think his last convert to Buddhist philosophy, the Buddhist way of thinking, was his mother. If I remember the story right, when Venerable Sariputta realized that my time is up, he asked around where his mother was, and he realized that his mother was still a non-Buddhist, and she was a follower of the Mahabrahma. So she was, I think, a Hindu probably in those days. And she realized that she had to help her mother. He'll help his mother to see the Dhamma, to enlighten. So when he went to visit his mother for the last time, so imagine Venerable Sadhu is very elderly at this age, at this time, and of course his mother will have to be very much older than he is. So probably a very stubborn lady. And you can see that in the scriptures, when reading the story. No matter how many of Venerable Sariputta's disciples went along with him, his mother didn't fall for it. In fact, his mother didn't for a moment accept that the great elder Sariputta was a great man. She wasn't accepting of this because she was so blinded in her faith of the Mahabrahma, as accepting that Mahabrahma is my teacher, he's my master. She didn't want to accept the Buddha. In fact, she was actually quite upset with the Buddha, quite angry with the Buddha, because all her children had gone on to become monks in the Buddha Shasana and gone on to become arahants, but she didn't know who an arahant was, of course, because she hadn't even become a sotapanna by that point. So I can kind of imagine the kind of scenario that might have happened, the situation that might have unfolded at his home, where Venerable Sariputta goes to meet his mother, Right? So coming in, the mother might have said, come in, come in. That might have been how she might have treated him, because she would not have felt the need to treat her son with any respect. After all, she is only saying, it's just my son coming back home. She doesn't see a great elder Sariputta. She just sees, this is my son coming back home, right? So she might have said, okay, come on in, take a seat. Right? How have you been? Imagine how you might talk to the great elder Sariputta if ever you had the chance to meet him. So this is not how the mother is talking to the son, because the mother doesn't realize who this is. So even in that situation, the great elder Sariputta would have given her some advice. But imagine how careful he might have been. Right? For a son to give advice to the mother or the father, you will have found yourselves in those situations. Many of you may. Right? Particularly where you have been introduced to the Dhamma, but perhaps your parents aren't yet. Right? So to introduce your parents to the Dhamma, it can be quite challenging. Because one, they're not used to it. Because they're the parent, you're the children. So what are they used to? Advice, one way. This is not a two-way road. It's one way. I give you advice. Because I am the parent and you're the child. You listen to me, not I listen to you. This is what they're used to. So his mother would have been used to that. So imagine the Sariputta Thero going and sitting down and speaking to the mother and saying, Amma, you need to understand the Dhamma. This is not how you need to be conducting yourself. Right? You could go to the great hells. What do you think the mother would have said? Me? Hell? Hell to you? I am a follower of the Mahabrahma. He is my master. Who is this Buddha fellow that you go and become, who say your master is? Who is that? It's not like him. My master is the Mahabrahma. He's nothing compared to your Buddha. This is how the mother would have spoken. Very adamant, stubborn, not open-minded. So what happened was, for those of you who know the story, or for those of you who don't know the story, eventually the Devas, they started to visit the Sariputta, the great elder Sariputta, to pay their respects. So what the mother could see were flashes of light appearing from the sky, and one by one the Devas, they visited the Venerable Sariputta to pay their respects, because he was going to be passing away into Parinibbana shortly. So the great Sakradeva came, and then eventually Mahabrahma also came. So who is Mahabrahma? The mother's master. So the Mahabrahma also came and worshipped the Sariputta Thero, and he, after having paid his respects, he went away. And then the mother approached the other monks and asked the other monks, what are those flashes of light that just came into the house, and what were they? Who were they, in fact? Because of course, she believed in divine power, so she knew about these flashes of light and things like that. And then it's at that point the other Theros said, well, that's your son, you don't realize, madam, is only second to the Buddha in terms of his wisdom. He is the chief disciple of the Buddha. And all these flashes of light that appeared from the sky were the Devas, including the Mahabrahma, who came and worshipped your son. So it's only at that point the mother realized, well, if the Mahabrahma worships my son, then how great might his teacher be? So that was the moment where this super ego that the mother had within herself, she was able to put aside and then at least listen to what the son had to say. Had it not been for that event, no matter how much the Sariputta Thero would have preached the Dhamma, she wouldn't have been able to understand any of that. And then eventually, after having listened to a sermon by the Sariputta Thero, she became a Sotapanna. But no matter how much he would have preached, before the miraculous event, wouldn't have made any difference. Because she was just so uptight, so adamant, so arrogant that she would not have accepted it. Now let's imagine that this event of where the Devas visiting the Sariputta Thero hadn't happened. let's just imagine, because perhaps Sariputta Thero knew that this was going to happen, perhaps he didn't know it, right? So imagine then the Thero trying to explain the Dhamma to the mother, but she's not taking it. He would have tried. He would have kept trying it because it's his duty. He has a duty to his mother. This is the mother who has brought him into this world and who has given him this brilliant opportunity once in a, not lifetime, once in a samsara time, to attain arahathood. Right? So this is the great mother that has brought him into this world. So he wants to pay his respects, he wants to fulfill his duty, fulfill his responsibility. But had the mother not taken on board his advice, it wouldn't have bothered him one bit. It wouldn't have upset him. He would have done his duty, and let's imagine the miraculous event didn't happen, he would have still said, okay Amma, I've tried my best with you. May you be well, may you be happy. I'm off. And he would have gone in the same mindset that he would have come into her home with. See, this is what we need to be able to do. This is the lesson we need to take from these stories. I mean, when the Buddha started to preach Dhamma to his monks, he wanted all his monks to fulfill the path and to become arahants. 20 years after he started preaching the Dhamma, the monks started to become mischievous in various different ways. This is when he had to start to lay out rules of conduct. There are plenty of instances in the Vinaya Pitaka where the Buddha summons the monks and he admonishes them. He says, you foolish man, how dare you do something like that? How could you conduct yourself in that way? Now, those words would have been quite stern. To the person listening to them, it would have been quite fearsome. It might have been like thunder, being struck by thunder. But the Buddha didn't have one tiny bit of anger or resentment in his mind. He did that all with compassion, with metta, karuna and mudita. So he was able to do that and lay out 227 rules of conduct, each as a precaution to prevent the next event taking place, the next instance of the same error taking place. That was why he laid out these rules. But each time he did it with compassion, not with anger. He never laid out a rule of conduct saying, well, let me teach you a lesson. He never did it that way. These are the lessons that we need to take from these great characters, these personalities. This is why I tell you, my superhero is not Superman. He used to be, but not anymore. Because I have all the Superman movies that I watched. Right? When Clark Kent becomes Superman, right, he still becomes angry. When Lex Luthor tries to come and destroy the world, Superman still gets angry. And you can see the frown on his face, on his forehead. He still gets angry. And he fights back. He fights back. He fights violence with violence. This is why Superman is not my hero. The King of Hearts is my hero. He doesn't fight violence with violence. Because he always, whenever he sees violence, he teaches the perpetrator, why have you become violent? This is the cause. And he shows us that through violence we suffer first, before we have even thought of inflicting that our anger, our wrath on someone else. He shows us that through his teaching. So when you conduct yourself with your family, right? It could be your parents, it could be your children, it could be your close relations, husbands, wives, because it's especially at home, perfect environment for problems to take place, isn't it? You should know. Right? Two people, different personalities come together, and now you have to start to make compromises. Love is nothing other than making compromises for each other. So by whatever degree you are able to compromise, by that degree you are able to live a happy life. Because this is a clash of personalities. No matter how much you match, there'll always be personality differences. There'll always be different personal preferences. And so when these personal preferences appear, Try to do your duty, fulfill your responsibility. But if ever you start to feel anger in yourself, if you start to feel annoyance, resentment, these can all be treated through anicca. So in your case, madam, when your mother or whoever conducts themselves in that way, and you have, for example, let's say, in the example that you gave, we keep asking our elderly mother, who's now weak, who's now unable to walk by herself, right? Use a walking stick, Amma. Make sure you hold on to the rails as you walk. Make sure you use the right footwear. Otherwise you're going to have a fall. Keep saying it. You should be able to tell it the 100th time the same way you said it the first time, without changing the tone, without raising the volume. Usually how does it happen? Don't do it. Then don't do it. Then don't do it. Then you idiot. That's usually how it happens. That shouldn't be how it. Thankfully, she's your mother. It's great in our culture. We respect our elders. We respect our parents, and we don't raise our voices when talking to our parents, right? Or our elders or our teachers. But in other cultures, that may be acceptable. So it may be that inside our mind, that's how we want to tell it, but we don't do it because it's not right to do it that way. See, what about if the wanting to say it that way can be taken away, can be removed? So I should be able to say the same thing the 100th time in exactly the same way. Don't do it. The first time. The 100th time, don't do it. The 500th time, don't do it. Now, I told you earlier on, you should be able to shout without being angry. The Buddha was able to do that. Because sometimes it may be that, let's say with children, okay, you have to raise your voice, otherwise they just don't get it. You should be able to do that also, because it's horses for courses. You should be able to, if your children don't listen to what you have to say when you talk to them in a soft tone, then you should be able to turn up the tone and still be able to say it, but without feeling any anger. So now you're turning up the volume, you're changing the tone for only one purpose, and that is so that your children can find out, identify their weakness and fix it, not to relieve yourself of vexation. Usually that the change in tone, the change in volume happens because you're not being relieved of your vexation. That's when the tone starts to pick up. That's when the volume starts to pick up. That's when harsh words start to enter the conversation. First you speak in very nice words, and then harsh words, evil words, right? And very spiteful words sometimes. Sometimes you become sarcastic to hurt the other person. This is because I tried it the first time, I'm not being relieved of vexation, now I'm going to try it harder. It's like, when there are huge rocks that we need to move out of the way when we do our construction work. If it's a small rock, you pick it up with your hand and put it away. If it's bigger than that, then you might use a shovel. If it's bigger than that, then you might use an electric machine. If that doesn't work, then you're going to have to bring a caterpillar, because they're huge rocks. Because the bigger the obstacle is, the bigger the force that has to be used to remove it. Now if your vexation is the same, the bigger the vexation is, the bigger the force that you're going to have to use to relieve yourself of that vexation. And usually the bigger the vexation is, the more the tendency for it to lean towards dasakusal, unwholesome deeds. That's why the volume starts to increase. Bigger machine. First you start with pebble. Puta, don't do that. Then after a little while it becomes a caterpillar. You rascal! And that's a caterpillar. Then the stick. And these are all means of relieving oneself of vexation when you're not unable to relieve your vexation the first time you did it. So this is why when you contemplate on anicca, you're now able to remove vexation from the root. When there's no vexation, now you're just treating the problem. Because it's not your problem. It's not a personal problem. The problem is when we make it our personal problem. Because then whatever we say, whatever we do, whatever we think, we do so to relieve ourselves of vexation. That's where the problem is. Now, in similar example that I have with my life is, I try to get my parents to come to the Dhamma more than they do at the moment. So I try out various things to try and get them to be interested in the Dhamma, and to come and listen to the Dhamma, to practice the Dhamma, and to do things, right? So that was the second thing I was contemplating on. So the other day I said, why don't you set aside half an hour every week, and I'll give you my time. Let's talk about the Dhamma, because they're still back over there. So I said, I'll come on a Skype call, I'll talk to you for half an hour every week, and I'll give you my time. So they don't realize the value of that. So anyway, I've been trying to help them to come towards the Dhamma. But I must be able to do it without vexing about it. Because I should be able to fulfill my duty, fulfill my responsibility to them. And that is to give them the gift of Dhamma. Because it is thanks to them, like the great Elder Sariputta, I must be able to feel the same way that he did. It is thanks to them that today I have been able to make avail of this opportunity. But if I begin to get upset about the fact that they don't listen to the Dhamma, let's say whenever they come to Sri Lanka, the first thing I do is I pick up, when they give me a call, I say, when are you going to come to the monastery? Sometimes they'll be like, okay, we have all these things we have to do, and we are flying on this day. The previous day we'll come and see you, but it'll be a short visit because we have to go quickly. So you can imagine what I feel like saying in response to that. I feel like saying, are you mad? The first thing you should be doing is coming to the monastery. Because there are some people like that. There are people among you, whenever they come down to Sri Lanka, the first thing they do is they come to the monastery. Even before they head home, they come to the monastery. And they come here and they reserve themselves on a meditation program, or they come and speak to a Swamin Wahanse, go through their problems, whatever, right? But I don't see the same level of earnest with my parents yet. Hopefully that will change, but not yet. But if I begin to become upset about it, or angry about it, or resent it, now that's my problem. So the first day I tell them, Appaji, listen to the sermons. What about the next time I speak to them? I should be able to speak to them in the same way. Appaji, listen to the sermons. Third time, listen to the sermons. Fourth time, listen to the sermons. 100th time, listen to the sermons. So that's the second thing I was contemplating on, because still I vex about it. I'm still vexing about it. I'm still, deep down in my mind, I still want them to do this. I still want them to listen to the Dhamma and be able to enlighten themselves. So therefore I'm vexing about it. So there's the dukkha. Then there's the abhisankara dukkha. See, right now I'm giving them half an hour a week. They haven't taken up the offer yet, but I have offered it to them. I think just a couple of days ago, they had sent someone down to come and talk to me, and then there was a couple who came down and from the UK, and I sat down and talked to them about their problem, and then at the end of that, they were asking Swaminatha, what can we do for the monastery? I said, there's nothing the monastery needs. I said, can you do me a favor? On your way back, can you please give Appaji a call and explain to him how much beneficial this experience has been for you to come to the monastery and talk to one of our Swaminatha's. Please could you encourage them to come and make use of the same opportunity. Make use of that. So that is why I asked them. But I was thinking to myself as I was saying it, aren't I still vexing about it? This is my problem. I shouldn't vex about it. But I still do. So that I have to treat. So I hope that my parents will realize this and fix themselves before I fix my vexation. Because once I have fixed my vexation, then I will only do what I am duty bound to do and nothing more. I'm not going to go beyond that. I'm not going to bend backwards after that. Because right now I'm bending backwards because it's vexing me. So sometimes when we speak to our young monks, we advise them. Swaminanza, I will give you advice, but make sure you fix yourself before I rid myself of the vexation for you to be well behaved. Because after that, I'm only going to give you advice by which amount I'm duty bound to do so. Because beyond that, if we step one step beyond that, it's because of our vexation. That's why. Right? So fulfill duties, fulfill responsibilities, but without vexing about it. So you see, I've shared two of mine with you as well. Ego happens to be the biggest problem. I think wherever we go, even in our mundane matters, affairs, right? Even at the workplace, for instance, it's so difficult to listen to someone tell you something you already know, right? We have all experienced that. I have, personally. When I was an idiotic fool, when someone tells me something I already know, it's very difficult to listen to it. You always feel like you have to say what you know. And almost unbeknown to you already put on, you play that cassette in your mind. And now what you're checking is what he's saying agreeable with what I already know. So it's a case of verification rather than taking in knowledge. Do you know it as you should be knowing it is what we go into. So you're right, sir. Ego is the biggest problem here. But the problem is the only treatment for ego is also the Dhamma. It's a catch-22. You can't do this because of ego. You can't treat ego unless you take the Dhamma. Unless you treat the ego, you won't take the Dhamma. Unless you take the Dhamma, you won't treat your ego. It's a catch-22. This is such an unfortunate situation. Go back to the story of the great elder Sariputta and what happened in his situation. In his situation, when addressing his mother, the mother was made to understand that the very being that the mother revered with so much respect actually comes and bows down at the feet of the person that up until this point she didn't give any regard to whatsoever. So something similar I sometimes use when we try to give the Dhamma to people who think they are hotshots, who don't like to take the Dhamma because they think they are know-it-alls. And that is usually, when I talk to them, I appeal to their ego. So sometimes it can be seen as buttering them up. But that is not how you should read that situation. We do it with compassion towards them. Because if that is the only way they're going to take it, then that's how we should do it. Sometimes we butter them up. How so? So let's say there's some person who's a very popular figure. Okay, let's say a politician maybe, or some other popular figure. And they come to the monastery on some occasion and they want to, they just come to have a chat. They're not interested in the Dhamma. Sometimes when we talk to them, what we'll be telling them is, a person like you is very powerful. You have a lot of authority. And there are things that people look for when they choose a leader, when they choose someone to respect, when they choose someone to be a follower of. And so one of those things could be, are they religious? Do they lead a religious life? How practically do they apply themselves to the religion that they follow? So perhaps it's in your interest to listen to the Dhamma. Because when you begin to listen to the Dhamma, then people will begin to see that you are a very religious person, that you are a very good person, that you go to the temple, you listen to the Dhamma, and you are, and people respect that. So let's imagine that there's a politician who comes to the monastery. Not that it's happened, but just as an argument. Say someone comes to the monastery, and then we might tell them, our devotees who come to this monastery, they're very focused on Nibbana. So they'll only side with someone who's also interested in Nibbana. So if you want their votes, the only way you're going to get it is if you show them that you are also interested in the Dhamma. So you had better start listening to the sermons. So we are feeding their ego. Because again, you see, whatever you're vexing from, there is a button that we can push. That's a button that we can push. Let's say you want to become successful in your work. Right? If you come to me asking for advice, Swaminatha, how can I become successful in my career? I'm going to have to show you how the Dhamma is going to help you become successful in your career, and then through that pave a path to Nibbana. Because sometimes if I talk to them point blank about Anicca Dukkha Anatta, they came in looking for career advice. I've given them advice for samsara. They're not interested in that. I don't need to hear about any of this. You're talking about letting go. I don't need to let go. I want to build my career. I want to become successful in my career. What are you talking about? This is nonsense. And then they'll go away. I haven't lost anything, but they have lost everything. So through compassion, sometimes we have to butter up their egos. So even in, I think I might have spoken with quite a few of you. And sometimes when you are, let's say, as a married couple, okay? Let's say there's one of the couple want to listen to the Dhamma, the other doesn't. It's advice I've given plenty of times. I think I've even mentioned this in sermons. Let's say the wife is quite keen on the Dhamma. She wants to listen to the Dhamma, come to the monastery regularly and practice the path and seek her liberation. But she comes and says, Swaminatha, my husband, not interested. How can we help? What we need to do is find out what he is interested in. Remember the analogy of the hand? Right? The thumb can never reach the middle finger. See, when I did that, the thumb could only go thus far. It can't go any further. But what the middle finger can do, it can come down and reach the thumb. And then having done that, now it can help progress. This is how it works. Because who's further up? It's his duty or her duty and responsibility to help those beneath them, their subordinates. Not the other way around, because that's impossible. So what I tell them is, before you start giving the Dhamma to your family, show them that as a result of you taking on board the Dhamma, you have become a better person, a more appealable person to your family. And sometimes some of the examples I give, if you've come along to the meditation programs, you will have heard me say this plenty times. Sometimes people, they listen to the Dhamma and then they go back home, especially after the meditation program, and now they become a completely different person, having taken on the Dhamma. They'll tell themselves, I no longer want to watch TV, I no longer want to be with my husband, I no longer want to go and eat out, I no longer want to do this, that and the other, because they think the world is Anicca Dukkha Anatta, right? I don't need anything, I just need to focus my life on Nibbana now. What happens then is the other person that you're living your life with, they become your enemy. Because that is not what they expected from sending you to a meditation program. What they expected from sending you to a meditation program is to come back a better person in their eyes, not in your eyes, or not in the Buddha's eyes. In their eyes. Remember, they have made an investment. Whenever you make an investment, what do you expect in return? You want a return in exchange for that. Right? If you make an investment, you want a return. So remember, the husband in this example has made an investment by sending their wife on the meditation program. So therefore, he wants a return. And the return is, she has to be a better wife than when she went. If she spoke to me, darling, now she has to come back and home and say, baby. That's how she should talk to me now, as a result of going on the meditation program. This is what they expect. But what happens is, she said darling before she went. Now she comes back and says, Upasaka Mahatya. Now what happens? Now the husband becomes her enemy. In fact, he becomes an enemy of the Dhamma. And then he begins to say, what has happened to you? You are never allowed to go back to that monastery ever again. Don't you ever step foot there again. See, whose fault is it now? It's the wife's fault. She did something she shouldn't have done. So this is where I advise them, it's great that you are on the path of the Dhamma, and it's great that you want to get your husband on the path of Dhamma, but here's how you do it. First, look at what he wants from your relationship. If he wants to go out with you once a month, now that you've come on the meditation program, show him that you are much more grateful as a wife to him than you were before you got the Dhamma. If he likes going out with you once a month, start going out with him twice a month. You go and make that suggestion. You go and tell him, dear husband, right? I realize how lucky I am to have someone like you in my life. And this is the truth. This is not lying. This is not making stuff up. Is she not lucky to have come on the meditation program? Is she not lucky to have had a husband who allowed her to come on the meditation program? Had it been someone else, perhaps he might not have allowed her that opportunity. So isn't she really quite lucky to have a person like that in her life? So go and express that. Tell him now, I am so lucky to have someone like you in my life. I didn't realize this until I went on the meditation program, until I listened to the Dhamma. Now I begin to realize how lucky, how fortunate I am to have someone like you in my life. I realize that I haven't been doing everything I ought to do to express my love to you. From now on, I'm going to do as much as I possibly can. I haven't been doing the best I could, but from now on, I'm going to change. Now show it by example. Don't have to keep saying it. There's no point in just saying it. But show it. If he likes going out with you once a month, start going out twice a month. If you always had a habit of exchanging birthday cards, now in addition to the birthday cards, start exchanging Valentine cards. But what do people do? First they start giving birthday cards, then they come on the meditation program, and then after that, no more birthday cards. Why? What's the point of birthday cards? Anicca dukkha anatta. This is foolishness. Again, it's ego. Because what happens then is, if you don't appeal to what they want from you, then immediately they're going to start putting up barriers. And then they're not going to want to come down this path. But what happens if you play it out the way I suggest you do? Now they're going to begin to, because, people are intelligent, they're going to start to think, how come she's changed so much? She didn't used to treat me like this. She's become such a nice person. She's become a brilliant wife. She wasn't like this before. I've tried doing so many things to get her to change, but she hasn't changed. But how come she's changed now? And then he might even come and ask, how come you have changed? You're a lot different than you used to be. Because I listen to the Dhamma now. When I listen to the Dhamma, I realize how lucky I am to have someone like you in my life. So should I listen to the Dhamma sermons, or should I stop listening to them? What do you think he's going to say? Make sure you listen to the Dhamma sermons. Why? The more you listen to them, the more I'm going to get what I want from you. And then he doesn't become an enemy of it. Now he becomes a friend. He sees the Dhamma as an ally. He sees the Buddha as an ally. He sees the Sangha as an ally. Now he's going to begin to want to come with her to the temple. Now he's going to, before it used to be, you go by bus, I'll come and, tell me when you are done, I'll come and collect you from the bus stop. Now he's going to say, I'll take you next time, darling. Then he's going to drive you to the temple. Next day he's going to say, I'll come and spend half a day with you. And then he's going to come down and listen to one of the sermons. Then he's going to get the Dhamma. That's how you help people. You got to be creative. First you have to appeal to what it is that they want. Very effective. Try it out. This is the way to do it, not the other way. Not the way that seems like the better way to do it, which is showing that you have changed in a way that makes you feel proud. That's not the way to do it. Because remember, if you are duty bound to help the people in your life to come to the Dhamma, right? Because they have helped you. It's now your chance. This is why do we invite the Devas, the Brahmas, the spirits, the demons, the dead to come and listen to these sermons? Because we are duty bound. Okay, I invite them. What if they don't come? I invite them, they don't come. Well, what am I going to do now? I can't do this sermon. Nobody is coming. Should I suffer because of that? Why don't they come to my sermons? No, I'll do my duty. If they come, they come. If they don't come, they don't come. That's it. But we appeal to them. Like, you might have some friends, for instance, right? They are so into offering alms. They'll give dana, right? But they won't listen to the Dhamma. They're not interested in the Dhamma. The best way to get them to the Dhamma is not by forcing them to listen to the Dhamma. Give them an opportunity to come and listen, come and give a dana. Because remember, perhaps the reason that they're not interested in listening to the Dhamma yet is because they still don't have the merits for their minds to get them to want to listen to the Dhamma. So what they ought to be doing then is really perhaps doing more merit. And then as they do more merit, suggest to them, when you give the dana, do it like this. When you offer the dana, whenever you give a dana to the Swami Nuhanses, make a resolve that may through this I be able to understand the teaching, the truth about existence. Eventually, they're going to want to one day come and sit down and listen to what the Swami Nuhanse has to say. And always appreciate. That's a really good tool. Rather than admonish, appreciate. But it's very natural for particularly, and you all have to be very careful here, right? Especially as people who are followers of the path, who are quite keen on the Dhamma. You can fall into this pit, and that is, when you see someone who is not a follower of the Dhamma, you might feel the need to rebuke them about it, to blame them about it, to tell them that they are wrong to not listen to the Dhamma. But the problem is, if they have already made their mind up that the Dhamma is not for me, to keep telling them that they're wrong, they're not going to want to do it anyway. So actually, the reason I asked half an hour with my mum and dad is not to force feed the Dhamma to them, because I realize that that's pointless now. What I need to do is to appeal to their ego, talk to them, see what they like to do, and then help them that way. So this is what I'm trying to do now, and this is what we all must be doing. Find a path to bring them back home. That is what we need to be creative for. Because if everyone took the same path, then that'll be so easy. But everyone is not like that. People like different things. Personal preferences are very different. What we need to do is we need to appeal to what they like, what they want, and then be creative to help them to find a path to where we want to get them. So here's the difference between Shraddha and Bhakti. One is faith, the other is conviction. One can only get into Shraddha through conviction, that is through wisdom. Until such time, what they see is indeed benevolence, right? So the Buddha is a great being, the Dhamma is great, the Sangha they're very good people, men and women who we should look after, and they're very good to others. But until one has become at least a Sotapanna or a Sotapanna Anugami, one has not, the seed of Shraddha has not been planted in their minds. Shraddha only comes through an understanding of the Dhamma, because that is what conviction is, rather than faith. Whenever there's faith, I think this is a subject we need to speak about separately on another day. No, it's good. The question is good, but I want to relieve you all at 6 o'clock because I have promised to do so. I'll briefly answer the question. Faith is usually based on what we observe through our 5 senses. So, for example, if we see a Swami Nuhanse who is always walking, looking down, or takes his meals in the alms bowl, only dons the 3 robes, right? Who appears to be very docile and very disciplined, then that can lead to feelings of respect towards the Swami Nuhanse. But that's not the same as Shraddha. Because Shraddha comes through an understanding of the Dhamma. Shraddha is based on wisdom. When we begin to realize who the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha are, We then begin to move from faith to conviction. Remember, faith is based on individuals. You can have faith in the Buddha, you can also have conviction in the Buddha. Faith is on an individual, on a person. Like, for example, teachers. We have a lot of Shraddha, or rather Bhakti, Guru Bhakti, not Guru Shraddha. We have a lot of faith in our teachers. This is deep love and respect. Okay? But if we ever get to hear that the teacher has done something that they shouldn't have done, then all our respect and all our love and affection towards them can be removed in just one moment. Can completely destroy it. Just one event can destroy all of that. But conviction is not like that. Shraddha is not like that. Because Shraddha is on the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, not in individuals, but in the qualities, in the virtues. Because these virtues are unshakable. Through wisdom, we begin to understand that what I need to do is to start to inculcate the virtues of Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha within myself. So this is it's going to take us a while to answer the question, but so therefore I'll talk about it on another day. So what we need to do is, those people who have bhakti or faith in Buddhism, that's a good thing because it's always a good place to start. Right? Introduce them to the Dhamma of Anicca Dukkha Anatta in the hope that they will convert from faith to conviction. Because a Sotapanna is someone whose faith has been converted to conviction. And that conviction cannot be taken away from them, cannot be destroyed no matter what. You could walk up to a Sotapanna and tell them all the bad things you know about a Buddha. Not that the Buddha has any bad things, but things that you think. Or you might try to paint a bad picture about the Buddha to a Sotapanna, and you can't change their belief in the Buddha. Because who they are, they have not based their faith on a person. They have based their conviction on the virtues of a Buddha. It's the qualities, not a person. I'll talk about that on another day, because it's a topic that we need to go into a little more depth in before we can understand what it is we're talking about. I think I touched on this some time ago in a previous sermon, but we'll talk about it in more detail. Because I know I need to relieve you all at 6 o'clock. Okay, so we have only a few minutes left. So I think we should probably close the sermon there. What I want you to do then is, our meditation session was a short one today. That's okay, because again, listening to the Dhamma is also meditation. This is why I asked you as you walked into this room, have you come here to meditate? Okay, you should be in meditation mode. What time of day? All time of day. Except for when you're asleep, you should be in meditation mode. In other words, whenever problems come to you, you should be able to deal with them, tackle them. Tackling life's practical problems through Anicca Dukkha Anatta is Buddhism. If someone asks you what is Buddhism, you can give them that definition. Tackling life's practical problems through Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Then they'll ask you what is Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Now you can start giving them a lecture. Because that's what you ought to do. Tackling life's practical problems. Life's practical problems. This is where I want you all to apply the Dhamma in. Not to become knowledgeable about the Dhamma. Not to write a thesis on the Dhamma. Not to get a PhD in the Dhamma. That's not life's practical problems. Life's practical problems, like how do I get along with my husband? How do I get along with my friends? How do I get along with my rowdy neighbors? I can't drink a cold tea. Isn't that a practical problem? That's a practical problem. I can't eat Indiyapa without kirihodi. That's a practical problem. If you run out of kirihodi, you should be able to just pour your glass of water into your Indiyapa and eat it. Yes or no? Yes. Why? If you just need the Indiyapa to become slippery so it can go down your throat, why does it have to be kirihodi? It could be anything. See, that's a practical problem. When people don't use Buddhism to treat practical problems, then they become a practical joke. That's what happens. So don't become a practical joke. Use Buddhism to treat life's practical problems. The more of them you deal, with, the more of them you tackle, the more of them you handle, the closer you will get to Nibbana. And make sure you start making some smart goals towards your Nibbana. I really urge you to do this. Okay, our Swami Masters have started doing it, and I want you to do it as well. Start making some smart goals. Write down things that you struggle to do right now. You should be able to do them. But, of course, please be sensible when you start making those goals. Okay, so for example, if one of your goals is, I can't shout at my mother yet. Right? My goal is, I should be able to shout at her in a month's time. Is that a goal for Nibbana? No. Your goal should be, I'm shouting at my mother. That's not a good thing to do. I should be able to not shout at her. Now that's a goal. Ragakke, dveshakke, mohakke, Nibbana. The eradication of raga, dvesha and moha, desire, aversion and delusion, that is what Nibbana is. Eradication of it, extinguishing of it. That's what you need to be working towards. One of the things I mentioned the other day, some people, they're very uneasy at the sight of blood, or perhaps a festering wound. It can make them become quite sick sometimes. They find it quite revolting. These are all defilements. You should be able to look at an open wound, a bleeding wound, without feeling uneasy, without feeling sick. You should be able to look at pus in a wound, and a festering wound, maggots in a wound, without feeling uneasy. But perhaps if someone showed you something like that today, faint. It can happen, but it shouldn't happen. It can happen sometimes. Now, let's say someone's been in an accident and half of their face damaged and the entire skin removed, and it's just a skull. This side you have the eye and the mouth, this side is just the teeth and skull and bloody. Right? When I say it, how does that make you feel? That's a problem. That's a defilement that needs to be treated. Because you still have a want. I want to see a complete face. The face that I want to see is like this. That's the problem. You got to treat that. You want to see that because that's what you like to see. You like to see that because you see that as being pleasurable, joyful and essential. Until you are able to treat that problem, you haven't made full funeral arrangements. You still have funeral arrangements to make. This is all about making funeral arrangements. Getting ready to go. Getting ready to go so you never come back again. Because if you keep coming back, you have to keep going. Okay. Right. We'll transfer merits and close the sermon. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today. First and foremost, let us all take a moment to remind ourselves of all the meritorious deeds that we have conducted throughout the course of the day. In making offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, in listening to the sermon, in preaching the sermon, as well as in engaging in various meritorious deeds throughout the course of the day by helping those who are known to you to come along, to make their stay here as comfortable as you could, offering them refreshments and so on and so forth, in whatever meritorious deeds that you will have conducted today and the merits that you have acquired as a result of that. Let us first and foremost, for a moment, remind ourselves of the Gautama Supreme Buddha. It is because of his infinite compassion towards all sentient beings that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because of his selfless commitment towards the liberation of all sentient beings, including you and I, that we have the gift of Dhamma today, the path to redeem ourselves from the shackles of samsara once and for all. Let us take a moment to transfer the merits that we have all acquired today to the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasak, Upasikas who since time immemorial protected and preserved the teaching of the Buddha and passed it down through generation to generation in the form of the Tripitaka, which is today available to us to study, understand, analyze and comprehend, as well as the members of the Mahasangha who are resident throughout the world. And also on this special occasion, not forgetting for a moment, the members of the Mahasangha who are resident in your local temples and in your local nunneries, the nuns who are resident in your local nunneries. Although you have come along here today to listen to the Dhamma, Let us not forget that it is the members of the Mahasangha, the Swami Nuances, who are resident in your local temples, in your local nunneries, who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. It is they who have always been there to advise you, guide you, and help you out in difficult situations in your lives. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, including the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, those of our forefathers and our ancestors in the Sangha Shasana, who have protected and preserved the Shasana all the way down through to us, as a result of which today you are able to witness men and women ordained in the Shasana. It is thanks to them who have made their lives ambition to protect the Shasana. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have today been born in the woeful planes, be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, and the dead, as well as anyone who might have been a relation of yours in its infinitely long journey in samsara, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, nephews, nieces, grandparents, so on and so forth, your teachers, co-workers, anyone and everyone who might have helped you, supported you, assisted you in any way, shape or form throughout your lives, throughout samsara, whatever capacity in which they might have made a positive change on your life, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, including those who are among the living today, those of your friends and families, as well as your co-workers. It is thanks to them as they have taken on their shoulders your duties and responsibilities, and therefore relieved you of them, that you are able to be here today, come along to the sermon and listen to it with peace in your minds. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unwholesome deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force. It is thanks to whom today we are able to enjoy the freedom and harmony that has been made available to us in our country, in our nation. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as men and women who might have lost their lives in the wars that rage throughout our country. Be they friend or foe, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as those men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis, earthquakes, hailstorms, landslides, so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but also in other parts of the world. It may be that perhaps relations of yours might have been subject to such events and such incidents. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Not forgetting for a moment that any and every one of them will have been a mother to us, a father to us in this infinitely long journey in samsara. With infinite compassion in our hearts and in our minds, let us take this opportunity to transfer merits to all of them. If any of them have been born in the woeful planes, may they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from the unwholesome deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who have made it their life's purpose, who have made it their ambitions to lead our country, to protect and preserve our nation, as well as to develop our country to the best of their abilities. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, and may through the power of these merits they abstain from non-meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also not forget for a moment all those men and women who have dedicated themselves to protecting the Dhamma as well as spreading the Dhamma. Men and women among yourselves as well who have religiously taken it, made it their duty, made it their responsibility to make these sermons available worldwide to large audiences, to your friends, to your families, to helpless, hopeless people out there who are still seeking true happiness in their lives. In transcribing these sermons, in recording these sermons, in making these sermons available in audio, video format, in whatever capacity, in whatever technology available, making these sermons available to all those men and women out there in the hope that may they be able to receive the gift of the Buddha. Let us take a moment to transfer merits to all of them, as well as those who have been involved in helping you be here today by providing you with transport, or perhaps by providing you with refreshments, offering you to a seat, offering you a glass of water, in whatever capacity anyone and everyone might have contributed to making this event a success, by passing on their blessings or by giving on their contributions through effort or monetary means, whatever capacity, may they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today throughout the course of today's events, throughout the course of all the meritorious deeds that you will have all engaged in, as well as in transferring merits and the merits acquired through the process of doing that, may through the power of all these merits we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Mahanses in this blessed land and in our very lives itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And may finally let us all make a firm resolve that may you and I and everyone who has contributed to this in whatever capacity, small or large, be able to become one of those Arahatun Mahanses, one of those Arahat Mehanin Mahanses in this life itself and in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fires of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all forever. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.